Tyler Head and David Ayer. Call or text 803-404-6100 on the Game Network.
Halftime show. Tyler Head, Terry Ford, David Ayer. Both of you are quite emotional. You'll miss me.
I know. It's the end of
I can tell.
An era. We've been doing this for 2 years now.
Yeah, I've been hanging on this show for 3 years-ish.
Yeah.
Jay and I were rolling this and our buddy Tommy Moody.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
So you're just going to start showing up at 3:05 now? Is that how this is going to work?
I'm going to show up about 3:30.
Yeah.
Jay has no idea.
See, Jay gets uncomfortable when he has to do things by himself.
And the funniest thing is, Jay can do this by himself in his sleep.
Jay's great.
But Jay just needs someone in the room with him to talk to.
And it's funny. So when I first started working here, and I bounced around to a million different shows, producing and filling in and all that kind of stuff. And when I had to fill in, for and help out with Jay, I think you told me, you're like, you don't really have to say much. He just needs to look at you. Mm-hmm. He just needs a person there to look at when he's talking. And you weren't kidding. I think the first show I did with Jay, I maybe said about 10 words, but it was mainly him. And I'd throw in the, yep, okay, or something in there.
If Jay knows you're there, he feels good. He's comfortable. Yeah. He's got his Linus. He's got his blanket.
Yes.
Without him throwing you over his shoulder, which would be creepy. And the other thing with Jay is, when he needs to breathe, you jump in.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So Jay's fine.
Yeah.
Jay'll be fine.
Yeah,
Jay's good.
You'll be his safety blanket.
I'll be his blanket moving forward.
Well, Dave, you're still stuck with me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Though I was telling you this earlier, I was off yesterday, and like any adult, I did have to go around and run errands on my day off because I had time to do things. So I went to the doctor yesterday. As I'm leaving the doctor's office, I look across the street. There's a place called Adair Pianos. Dave, is this the secret you've been hiding for us? Are you like a master pianist?
We have millions of locations all over the world.
See? So he knows it.
I feel like we talk about we don't want to know what Dave does in his time off. I feel like he's like this piano master, selling them, giving lessons. Maybe he's doing concerts somewhere. I don't know. Like when Dave has his days off, he's going and performing all around the world.
I'm picturing Dave in that cool, long tux that the pianist wear.
Yes.
Flips it back, sits down, and just starts wailing on the keys.
Is that true, Dave? Did I discover your secret?
They call me Maestro.
There you go.
Well, guess what?
You're on Lake Murray Boulevard, right?
Yeah, I was over there. And I was like, is this Dave's legacy? What am I looking at here? Should have gone in. I should have gone in and asked that they knew you. I could have gotten a discount or something.
Oh, yeah. Go in and tell them that you know me and see how big a discount you get.
We. Well, you now get a really good discount because you know Dave.
Sure.
So, at least 50% off.
Because, see, we thought you were doing weird stuff on your off days, but that makes more sense.
Yeah, he's the piano king of the Midlands.
Yeah.
David Ayer.
Is that the same thing as the polka king of the Midwest?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Dave, not to brag, but Dave also is the polka king of the Midlands.
So has Larkin Poe reached out for like a collab of like, hey, come on tour with us, album? Is that what you're waiting on?
I'd say it's been offered.
Okay.
It's been they're in negotiations.
You didn't run across the Dare photography, did you?
Is that your side gig?
There's one of those around.
Okay.
Very well-known fella.
They're everywhere. He has an empire.
Dave,
he just does this for fun.
Dave really does. This is his front. This is money laundering.
Why do you think he owns a Beamer, dude?
I was going to say.
Come on.
We know it's not the radio salary.
Right. You can't own that.
Sell a couple baby grand pianos. That'll pay that thing off.
My man's ready to roll. All right. So, speaking of ready to roll, halftime show, we go till 3 here on the game. Obviously, the P.J. Dean thing doesn't go in the direction anybody was hoping it would go here. And Dean, the the 4-star interior defensive lineman, ends up verbaling his commitment to Georgia. Again, it's a verbal. South Carolina's not going to go, really nice knowing you. Bye, good luck. No, the Gamecocks will continue to recruit Dean.
It's like when the girl you really like gets a boyfriend. You're like, well, they're not married.
That's right. Come on.
It's
not legal or anything.
Not going to stop me.
It's not a binding contract.
Yeah. Like, I'm still going to be around, still going to be, having conversations, and she changes her mind. Guess
I'll
who's
be
right?
here.
Guess who's right there?
Yep, I'm here to console her. Because it's always about consoling her.
It is like, oh, he's mean to you. He had a fight. Oh man,
And then-
that jerk.
And the best thing about it, you find out the things she doesn't like about him, and you do the opposite.
Exactly. It's you're getting the blueprint.
Yes.
Right. Like, okay, he does this. I'm not going to do that. He does this. I'm not going to do that.
So you know what to do.
Exactly.
Bam. So maybe that's what South Carolina has to do with PJ Dean.
Strategy.
You got to be strategic.
Yeah.
So it's not over, obviously. It's just a verbal. And that's why I've always said the verbal thing is silly. I mean, I get the reason behind it, but it does. The reason behind it doesn't work.
Yeah. It's supposed to be a deterrent for everybody else. Like, hey, locked in on this place. Again, I can't sign until December, but this is where I'm going. And again, if anything, that makes the other schools like, okay, well, you sure? You sure? Hey, wait, hold on. One more last thing. Look at this.
Well, we'll just stay in contact just in case you want to change your mind. Something changes.
Do you think you get more phone calls the week before or the week after you commit
Probably
somewhere?
the week after.
Yeah.
I also think that this goes both ways. Like if a kid firmly is verbaling to a school, they don't take any more visits.
Yeah.
I mean, these kids also go for after they verbal to a school, they take 10 visits,
and then the school they've committed to, like, hang on, wait a minute, hold on now, like what are we doing here?
You go back to the girl thing. You verbally committed to me to be your boyfriend, but now you've taken 10 dates.
Yeah, it's like this isn't
Wait a
how
minute.
this works.
So I mean, all sides of it really don't hold the verbal.
Sure.
And then there's the other thing. I mean, we also see the verbal. We'll see the team you verbal to might pivot away from you, or they're recruiting 10 other guys at the spot that you play.
Yeah.
And you're going, oh wait a minute, but we need depth. I get that, but
Yeah.
that many.
And by the way, Georgia has signed just a lot of guys in general in the past couple of days, but multiple defensive linemen, including another one last night after Dean made his commitment.
So again, if you're South Carolina, you'll check in, see how it's going, and have a walk with them, conversation, have a lunch, a coffee.
The "you up" text.
You up?
That what? That's more of a, I guess, a my generation type of thing.
I know what you mean. You up?
Did you have an equivalent to that for yours?
Well, not, because I'm trying to think because the technology thing is so funny with that you up. I'll go back, and not with my generation, but the generation before, the guy that would be in the yard throwing rocks at the window at night to talk to the girl.
Holding up the boombox.
Holding up the boombox.
Yeah.
My guy. John Cusack.
Lift us up where we belong.
Yeah, John was what was that? Oh, the Peter Gabriel song. In These Eyes, he held up the boombox.
There it is.
Cusack. You go to the bedroom window, throw the rocks up there real light,
And then Dad comes out on the front porch with a gun and tells
shoot you.
tells you to go away.
How romantic is that? Where'd you get the gunshot wound?
I was say, if we were going to be real about how those kind of things would probably go down, that's probably what would happen.
Because you got the boombox, and God knows what time it is at late at
Yeah,
night.
it's like, is nobody else hearing this?
In
Is
the
this not
real-
waking up anybody
In
else?
the real world, you get shot. My neighborhood I grew up in. Hey, who's the guy laying there bleeding with the boombox?
For one, they would steal the boombox.
That's what they do. They walk over and go, wow, you're bleeding. Guess you don't need this. Oh, by the way, you got a wallet? See what you got.
You wouldn't have been able to get out of the Radio Shack parking lot.
Absolutely not. But yeah, so you're going to keep hovering around, and it's far from over. But and you can't feel like these. Look, you just move to the next one.
Yeah.
That's all this is in recruiting. You can't. You just go, okay, who's next?
Yeah.
Who's next? Who's next? Who's next?
In an ideal world, you win every recruiting battle, but it doesn't work that way. It's almost kind of like baseball, right? Like, all right, I'm going to get, over the course of a weekend series against whoever, I'm going to get, let's just say, 15 at-bats, right? If I can get hits in 5 of those, I'm doing pretty good. I'm hitting 300. That's 300 gets you in the Hall of Fame, like we talk about all the time. And again, maybe not the exact correlation when you come to numbers of commitments with recruits, but like, you're casting your net far and wide. You're not going to get all of them.
No.
You hope you get a good number, and the number that you get are good, solid talents.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what you're doing. It's a numbers game. It truly is a numbers game before it's all said and done. And you got enough bites at the apple is what you got to do, and you're going to win some, lose some. Even Alabama under Nick lost recruiting battles. Kirby's lost recruiting battles. Sark's losing recruiting battles. You just do. That's the nature of the beast. And you just move to the next one and move to the next one. And when the dust settles, you check your class and,
Girl number 1 said no to prom. Move on to girl number 2.
In the words of one of my best buddies, it just takes one.
But keep girl number 1's number.
You never know.
Never know.
We'd go out, and we'd go out when we were older, and we would hit some bars or whatever. And he's asking like girls to dance, and like 10 of them turn him down. And we're making fun of him. He'll always look over and go, I just need one, man. I just need one. We're not playing the percentage game. I just need one.
Yeah.
And he find a girl to dance with him, and he told you.
He looks at the entire floor. It's like, all right, there's 200 here. At least one of them's going to say yes.
Right.
I like my odds.
125 down, 75 to go. I'll get one. But anyway, so yeah.
How did he turn out, by the way?
Yeah. So anyway, about PJ Dean.
Fair enough.
You know what? Every now and then, you can call the prison phone and talk to him for a little while.
I'm sure you can.
So, all right. So you move on from that. Now tomorrow, there's going to be
Noah Clark, another defensive lineman, defensive tackle, more kind of like a true nose tackle, big body, kind of plugs up the holes.
He looks like
there.
the old school nose tackle, doesn't he?
Yeah. The dude that probably eats more than anybody else on the team.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. For that position, that's great.
They want him to occupy as many blockers as you can.
In fact, get him a second place.
That's right. And it's between NC State and South Carolina, from what I understand. So we'll see what happens with that tomorrow. But again, you just keep going. And if you get Noah Clark, great. Okay, who's next? And that's the same thing about it. Whether you get him or not, it's still okay, who's next?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's nature of the beast. You're not going to land everyone. And again, you just hope at the end of the day you look back and you come up with a pretty good class. And again, we talk about it so much. Carolina's class is really good so far, and still, plenty more to go. Obviously, you got Landon Duckworth potentially making his announcement coming up here soon, and again, that would be a huge highlight for that class. Especially
because he had verbal to you, then he reopened his recruitment.
Yep.
And if you could get him back in the fold, and that's another thing about all this stuff. There's no rule book of, if he decommits from you, you're never going to get him back. No, you can. I mean, there are instances where guys will, for whatever reason, decommit to a verbal and then end up at the school anyway.
And that was a commitment, I want to say that was back in 23.
Very early.
He was, I guess, was he a sophomore in high school at that point in time? Yeah. So it was like, all right, that's a very early on in the process that you don't see a whole lot. So it's not the most surprising thing that he opened it back up. But again, Carolina's always kind of stayed towards the top, and, they feel like they got a pretty good shot with them. So we'll see.
And, at the end of the day, it seems like South Carolina, Auburn there. And we'll see where and of course, what we do is we break all this stuff down, okay, especially with quarterback, right?
Yep.
Well, Auburn's quarterback room, South Carolina is looking forward to this and that. And sometimes we overthink the room because, again, we're dealing with 17, 18, 19-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
Think about when you were making decisions at 17, 18, and 19.
They were all great.
Perfect, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Remember how smart we were then?
We've never been smarter.
It's so funny. You think back on that now and go, wow, I might have been the smartest dumb guy I ever met.
You were the smartest you've been at that point in your life.
And you thought you were like my 18-year-old now, man. He thinks he is Mensa level.
Does he think he's getting away with things?
Oh, absolutely.
That you very much know about?
Because I thought I was getting away with things, right? And my dad knew everything I was doing. He just let me do it, right? Yeah. And my dad had a great saying, and I'll clean it up for the radio. My dad would go, boy, you learn more from screwing up than you do from doing it right. So you might as well go out there and screw up a lot so you get smarter.
That's true.
And so my dad would let me go do dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And then he'd look at me and go, well,
what did we learn?
He go, did you get smarter? I'm like,
Cracked your head open. Not going to do that again.
And like with my 18-year-old, I've said to him, I was like, you understand something. And I don't say it this way, but I go, I grew up a teenage degenerate.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing you do is going to be worse than I tried to do.
Sure.
So you can't win. You are a very low level. You are a low level, my man. So, yeah, there's nothing you're going to try that I didn't try and probably tried it better.
Yeah.
Because back then, you could get away with more back in those days.
Well,
didn't have that stupid phone.
I say everything's recorded now.
We were joking about that upstairs. Engineer Randy and Jen and I, we were right down here saying, thank God we didn't have those things back when we were that age.
You'd probably still be in jail.
Oh, my God. The dumb stuff we were doing. And it's always one guy. Hey, man, why don't we videotape that thing? What do you say?
Like, hey, how about we not tape the thing that's against the law?
I know.
Novel concept. But my followers got to know. It's got to be in my story, man.
I have a large following. You understand
Yeah, and your
that,
uncle's
right?
also a cop.
All right. Hey, Dawn Staley's not going to take the Knicks gig. We'll get into that next. The little bit more that has been tweaked from all this, this rumor and innuendo about Dawn and the New York Knicks head coaching job. That's next here on the Halftime Show. The pianist, David Dare, Tyler Head, Terry Ford. We're going till 3 on the game. All right, so Dawn Staley, we heard this rumor, which, again, I was fascinated by, because it came from not sliced bread, but not far from a sliced bread kind of thing, New York Knicks fans' YouTube.
Well, that's the most reliable source.
Well, they're kind of like...
Because they heard it from a guy, they heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another.
Yeah, I mean, it was exactly. Well, I got a buddy. I was talking to my buddy at the bar. My buddy knows a neighbor in his neighborhood that knows... the secretary that works for the Knicks.
Did you always have that friend that knew somebody?
Oh, you knew always knew somebody.
Well, they always had a connection to something.
Always knew somebody,
right? Like his cousin worked with this guy, or his brother was in the army with this dude. Like he always had a connection to everything.
And it's always two people away from him.
Yes, it's not like he can't pull out his phone and call the guy.
That's why
I gotta call my brother, who then can text the guy. But like it's legit, man.
Yeah. Oh, sure. So like the guy, we had one dude who was always had a girlfriend or was always dating a girl, but never in the state of Maryland.
Oh, she went to a different school.
Yeah, she always went to a different school.
That's classic.
Yeah.
And I guess today it's a little easier to prove with social media, but like back in the day, before Twitter and Facebook, like you couldn't prove that.
Going out with this girl in Delaware, dating a girl in Pennsylvania,
there's
hanging with a girl in Virginia.
Girls here too. What's wrong with them?
What's wrong with the girls in the state of Maryland, bro? What's up with that? So you always had that guy. Well, whoever that guy was helped start this rumor. But the interesting part is we're hearing now that Dawn did have conversations with the Knicks. And I'm looking at the post like Kevin Miller, for example, Gamecock Central. James Edwards of The Athletic, Dawn is not a finalist for the Knicks job, though Staley impressed New York during their conversation. This is just, my thought on this. We were yipping about it yesterday, was, look, there's a reason Dawn Staley, in her contract, has a zero buyout if she takes an NBA job.
Sure.
There's a reason. Not to say she's going to do it one day, but she wants that door open in case an opportunity walks through that door that piques her interest enough to make her want to pursue said opportunity.
Sure.
And I just really believe that Dawn, and as a compliment, looks at herself as a trailblazer, someone who wants to open doors, someone who wants to be the first one, through that situation to lead others now can go through it as well. And so that's, I think, for me, for Dawn Staley to leave here, it's going to have to be something like that. I don't think she goes to another college gig. The WNBA can't give her the money or the platform. I think if she does leave, it'll be for an NBA job at some point, if that ever happens.
And it's like, would it have to be like the 76ers? Like, would it have to be the job for her? Like, because again, like the Knicks, that's a pretty good roster. Again, they just made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, you'd be going into a really good situation
when it comes to roster. But the flip side of that is the owner's a goof. And he's one of the worst owners in professional sports. And two, they just fired a guy who got in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, and here, you're never getting fired.
Yeah,
ever.
That's true. Yeah, you got it made here as long as you want to be here. If that's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, nobody's going to move you out of the way.
I think like the perfect scenario is a place like San Antonio. Greg Popovich might not be coaching there anymore, but he still runs the organization. Ownership is great. Stability everywhere. A lineage of winning.
Yep.
People who actually understand hoops. A place like that would be, or like even in Oklahoma City, the crew that just won the NBA title. Really good ownership, really good front office, infrastructure is unbelievably solid, patient, understand basketball.
I think the most important question to ask here is how much longer does she want to coach in general, right? Like does she want to coach for another 10 to 15 years? But because if you're getting hired in an NBA job, no organization's going to want to hire someone that's like, hey, I want to do this for like 4 or 5 years and then I'm out. Like they want a long-term plan here. And if Dawn Staley thinks like, okay, maybe call it a career when I'm 60 or whatever, not saying that she's going to, but if that's her idea, then I don't know how many organizations would jump on that. You know what I mean?
And what you just brought up there, I mean, obviously, we always just talk about coaching. Could there be an opportunity that comes to her like at a higher level in basketball that she would go, oh, that would be groundbreaking or trailblazing for me to do that?
Yeah.
That really interests me.
Could she be like a team president?
Exactly.
Or GM or some high role where she's not coaching, but she's overseeing basketball operations that again, very tough job, obviously, but it's not the day-to-day grind that being a coach is.
And that might be something that would maybe interest her when it comes to WNBA, not
Maybe
really
so.
coaching. Because in coaching, you're not making. She makes so much more money than a WNBA head coach. It's vile.
She might make more than all the WNBA coaches combined, for being honest.
Might make more than all the players combined. They make, what, $70,000 a year, 75 grand?
It's not a lot.
You're not making a lot of money. And that's why I say in that league, financially, it would be tough for them to put together something to make it worth Dawn's while. And that's why I think the WNBA is a problem for her.
If she coached in the WNBA, I think it would be a case of she retires from college basketball, takes a couple years off, and then somebody's like, hey, we really need some help here. Would you be willing to do that? And again, she goes there for, basically money that doesn't matter at that point, but she's there to help out whatever that program organization is to get them where they need to.
And
be.
maybe it's that Philly WNBA
Maybe it's Philly.
team.
And I think Bill pointed out this morning, the way her contract is structured through 2030 here does coincide with what the anticipated start of that WNBA expansion team would be. So, and again, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here, but if there was ever going to be a time where like, hey, I'm going to go into an ownership role or maybe I'm an executive with this team, like that would line up perfectly.
Right. It's something different than just being, because again, just being a head coach in WNBA, I don't think for her, that's not the juice to make her leave here. That's just me.
Sure.
But an NBA job for the right franchise, to be the first woman to coach an NBA team.
Yeah. And there is no woman in basketball more positioned to do that.
Right.
Like, not even close.
The only other person whose name comes up in that, and ironically was San Antonio, was Becky Hammon for years. She was an assistant on Pop staff. She coached their summer league team. There was some smoke about one day if Pop steps down, would Becky Hammon move into that? But obviously Becky Hammon is now a head coach in the WNBA. But I just think that's the only other name that you would hear besides Dawn.
Yep.
And Dawn is, and even in the article Kevin Miller writes, she talks about, the professional ranks don't intrigue her. But the point is, if it wasn't a thing in your head, your contract wouldn't be structured the way it is when it comes to the buyout for professional basketball.
Right.
And not to say she doesn't love what she's doing. Of course she does. And that's why I think it would take something special to pull her away from here. Because she loves coaching collegiate athletes, and she loves the fam they've built, so to speak, when she goes to watch Aaliyah play or Asia or whatever the case. And she's all the other, and the alum come back to hang out with her. And she's built this thing here that's special. And you're not going to leave it unless you really get something to make you go, oh,
Sure.
Okay. And do I think the Knicks gig was that? I mean, again, there's good and bad to that job. Look, in the world of coaching, most people would want to go test themselves on the highest level possible.
Yeah.
And like in the NBA, there's only 30 of those gigs. Now, some of those gigs are a lot better than others, and some of those gigs aren't great. And I just think like the Knicks job, there's mixed things there. And for her, it does not hurt you to have that conversation.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're leaving, you want to leave. It just means, wow, that's interesting. Sure, let's talk. I want to hear more.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, that's where it ended. I think I'm thinking they're going to hire Mike Brown, a guy who's been fired by 17 other teams.
Well, that's the thing is what they're down to, like options 17 and 18 now.
Well, Tyler,
because so many teams block them from talking to coaches.
Well, when your plan A is let's go snag a head coach from another team, and then all those teams go, no, we like our head coach.
Like, hey, no, we can tell you you're not allowed to do that.
Right. And so we're going to block you unless you're going to give us the greatest compensation package in the history of basketball.
You know what's going to happen, though? Mm-hmm. Whoever they hire, press conference, right? Mm-hmm. We got our guy.
Got our guy.
Got our guy.
Let's say it's Mike Brown. Mike was who we really were zeroing in all along. Obviously we had looked at a lot of options and looked at a talented pool of coaches. And at the end of the day, Mike really was always shining from the beginning.
Okay, that's what you believe.
All right, just in case you just woke up, get caught up in some of the things in the sports world that have been happening. Maybe you haven't been paying attention because it's early in the day. Halftime show, David Dare, Tyler Head, Terry Ford, till 3 on the game. All right, just in case you woke up just now, interesting goings on in the NBA. It's obviously off-season is in full gear in the NBA. Interesting move. Damian Lillard, who blew his Achilles, will most likely not play next year. Damian Lillard was waived by the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks, what you call stretching the money. It's sort of like in the NFL, how you can, the length of the deal, you can stretch out the signing bonus where it doesn't kill you in the cap.
Yep.
The NBA has something like that called stretching the contract. The Bucks are waiving Damian Lillard, and they're stretching the remaining $113 million of his contract to acquire Miles Turner from the Pacers. Now, Turner's going to agree to a 4-year, $107 million deal plus a player option. And I won't bore you with the contract mechanics of the NBA because no one understands it, not even the NBA.
Well, I just know you get no-name guys that can make $8 billion.
It's crazy.
All guaranteed.
The NBA, honestly, I will tell you, Matt Damon from Goodwill Hunting would not understand the NBA salary cap.
Well, and that's what people always say is, football players want to be basketball players because it's all guaranteed.
Oh, yeah. Well, football players want to be any of them.
Yeah.
I mean, baseball players, it's all guaranteed money. The NHL, it's all guaranteed. The only professional sport out of the 4 majors in our country that doesn't have guaranteed contracts is the NFL.
The one where you probably want to guarantee.
Yeah, well, that's why the NFL don't want to give it to you.
Injury prone you can be.
And that's why the NFL says we don't want to do those. Think about how much money the NFL would be giving away to players if they had guaranteed contracts with players getting hurt at the rate they do in the NFL.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And I see why they don't want to do it. But if you're a player in the NFL, you're like, this stinks.
Yeah.
I'm in high-speed collisions every Sunday. If anybody needs guaranteed money, it's me.
You know why they can do that, though?
Uh-huh.
Because they collectively bargained it.
They CBA'd it, yes.
So nobody can say, you're limiting my earning potential. Nope. Hold on. Your representation said you agree to that.
All right there in your CBA. So
funny how those kind of things work.
Yeah, it's weird when you have a collective bargain agreement. You don't go to court a lot, do you?
Yeah, it's weird. Maybe another level of sports
should look at that. College athletics should try that? Nah.
It might work.
All right, so the Bucks letting Lillard go. And look, Lillard, it just didn't work in Milwaukee. Some guys just aren't right fits. Damian Lillard, offensively, can go on a heater and score a ton of points. Obviously, he's a high-level shooter. Not a defender. Just old Damian, we were joking upstairs. You got to take the D out of his names. He's Damian Lillard. No D.
Yeah.
There's no D in Damian Lillard at all. And Milwaukee, those teams went to the championships. They were kind of anchored by guys playing defense, like Holiday and Middleton and obviously Giannis. And that's not Lillard's bag. And he just wasn't a great fit with Giannis, and it just didn't work.
Sure.
And one thing we're learning in the NBA is you go star hunting just to get a star. That's not the way you do it. You still have to team build. Is this guy a fit? Does this thing work? It's not just, that guy scored 27 points a game. Let's go get him. We saw that in Phoenix with Kevin Durant, and then they brought in Bradley Beal, which was a disaster. You just can't throw a bunch of dudes together in a blender and it comes up championships. So Milwaukee, look, Miles Turner, he's a solid player. I mean, he can have his moments where he plays well, his moments where you don't know he's on the court, like you saw him in the playoffs. There were some games where Miles Turner was a real difference maker for Indiana, and there were days where you went, did Miles Turner play tonight?
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess if you're Milwaukee, you're desperate to put something together, so you go for Miles Turner, hoping that you swing and hit this time. But do I think that's an overpay on Miles Turner? Myself, yes. But Milwaukee's got to do something because Giannis, at some point, is going to walk. If you don't put a better team around Giannis, he's going to walk. The Bucks, this might be their biggest swing of a swing, and really you're asking the guy to be more than he is in Miles Turner, is my opinion.
Right.
But the Bucks are trying to do something, and you had to get off of Lillard's contract. So, and in Indiana, we'll see what Indiana's going to do moving forward here, because Turner been in Indiana for 10 years. And so where do the Pacers go from here? Are they going to go to look to, because again, they don't have Tyrese Halliburton. So is Indiana just looking to reorganize money because they're not going to have Halliburton most likely for the whole season? Or are you looking to move some pieces in because Halliburton's gone? Which direction is Indiana going to go here? And why that move is made? Because, well, anyway, Miles Turner, no offense, became almost like the fourth option on that team
Sure.
as the year went along. So that's interesting. And Damian Lillard will spend the year rehabbing and then come back with a chance to sign with somebody else. So anyway, that just went down here right before the show almost. Also, all right, Darren Waller had a span of time for a few years where he was arguably the best tight end in the NFL when he was playing for the Raiders.
Yep.
And then Waller started to get injured a lot. And then Waller retired. Well, guess what? Waller's now unretired. And he's going to play for the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins will trade a 6th-round pick in 2026 to the Giants, who held his rights in exchange for Walker, and a conditional 2027 7th-round pick. Now, Waller is now 32 years old. But again, for a 2-3 year span, he was arguably one of the best tight ends in the game. And here's the thing about Waller that's always interesting to me. He was drafted by the Ravens. He was a wide receiver in college.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody looked at him and said, that dude's a tight end. And I'll never forget, he was doing a player show. He was part on one of his players' buddies' show. And they were asking Waller about, watching football. And Waller was like, I don't watch football. And they're all stunned. You don't watch football when you're not playing? No.
He's there for the check.
Right. And it's like, well, what do you do? He goes, I love playing video games. And so he started about all the video games he likes. And yeah, it came out like, look, bro, I really don't love football. Matter of fact, I barely like football. You know what I like about it?
The money.
I get paid.
Listen, there's be more guys in the league than you would think that have that exact same mindset. Like, I discovered I was really good at this. I've rode it this far. I'm making a lot of money doing it. That's why so many guys, like, once they retire from the NFL and you're like, oh, he's an abstract artist now. Like, I think we all assume, like, oh, they're going to do something football related after the fact. A lot of these guys don't love football that much.
No, it's a job to some guys. I mean, we love it because we're into it. And that's why we get shocked when we see a football player that doesn't really love football.
Yeah, but hey, when you grow up to be, 6'4" and you have an insanely muscular frame, well, guess what? You're probably gonna be pretty good at football.
You're super athletic,
and your family's like, hey, if you keep doing this, you can get a college education and you can go make millions of dollars. Yeah, I'll do that.
Sure.
Listen, we've all worked jobs that we didn't like very much. If you were getting paid millions of dollars to do that job, you'd be like, all right, I'll ride this out for a while.
I got a couple of buddies who are accountants. They hate it, except for payday.
Yeah.
They make stupid amounts of money.
They have brief moments of happiness twice a month.
Yes, and then they go back to the boredom that is being an accountant.
Yeah, but when their career is over and they can retire at 45, like, glad I did that.
I love that job. And again, I've got friends who have jobs where they just make a lot of money, but they really don't particularly care for the job. They like the money.
Sure.
It's very simple. And that's what some NFL players do, some Major League Baseball players. There's baseball players who will say, I don't watch baseball. Yeah. It's boring to watch.
And also, when you're living that grind every single day, even if you are a fan of it and you love it, it can kind of beat it out of you. If your entire life revolves around playing a sport 365 days a year, especially one like baseball where it really never stops, I could see you falling out of love with it at some point.
Absolutely. And it's just like it's a daily grind. And to some of these guys, like again, we sit around and go, man, I love that, man. You can spend the day like watching film and lifting weights and practicing, and you get to play games, and they pay you a lot of money. This is awesome. Some guys are like, oh my God, I got to get up and lift.
Yeah.
Again, it's all perspective. And Waller also had some substance abuse issues early in his career, but I'll never forget. And to his credit, he battled the demons. But I'll never forget that interview, and everybody's sitting there going, he guy doesn't like watching football. He's not really into football. He could care less about football. It's his job. He doesn't love it. He's there because he's really good at it, and they pay him really well.
Yep.
And the more and more you get around these people, and when you do this for a living like we do, the more you realize there is a percentage of folks that don't love it anywhere near as much as like we do.
That's right.
But they're really good at it, and they can make a lot of money, and so they're going to, like Fred Flintstone, carrying his lunch pail into the quarry.
Yep.
At the Slade Quarry, and he's going there and he's going to like ride the dinosaur for 8 hours and punch out and go home.
Exactly.
That's kind of where some of them are at. To the shock and dismay of us, because we go, really?
Yeah.
Are you serious? But it's reality. It just is. All right, Firehouse Sub Text the hour next, 803-404-6100. Halftime show. The pianist, David Ayer, Tyler Head, Terry Ford. We go to 3 on the game. Time to roll the old Firehouse Sub text of the hour. 803-404-6100. What do you got there, Tyler?
Nameless texter says Darren Waller also got lonely after Kelsey Plum left him, so he needed something to do.
Oh, that's a good one. Nice angle.
They broke up or divorced like a year ago, I think.
Something like that.
Because he'd already retired at that point. Because I think wasn't he cheating on her or something like that?
Yeah, there was some smoke about all that.
I'm getting all the TMZ of
you know what? I would find that stunning.
I feel like that was had something to do with it, and yeah, she said bye, and I guess he's been alone ever since.
There you go, man. What was the? And look, I've always said this about that sort of stuff. You know, again, people like with the remember when Tiger Woods and all that stuff popped.
Yeah.
And I was saying, look, I'm not sitting here defending anyone. Look, I never, ever, ever, ever go after morality. Everybody's got their own morality, right?
Sure.
Everybody's got their own stages and levels, and I am far from a perfect human being. You open up like all of us, you open up our closets, something falls out at some point. I had a lot of somethings from my early life.
Right.
But, you know, because I thought with Tiger Woods, people who were like, I remember these, you know, the Bob Costases of the world were blah, 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 blah. And I felt like saying, dude, why don't you go live Tiger Woods' life for a week? Go ahead. Now, and make sure you can walk through the hundreds of women who want to sleep with you because you're Tiger Woods and are throwing themselves at you because you're Tiger Woods. And it's just because you're Tiger Woods, not because you're like super good looking or super charismatic. Sure. You're Tiger Woods. And they look at your face, they see bags,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But go through that gauntlet all the time and make sure you can come out at the end and be perfect because, now again, don't get me wrong, his wife is beautiful, but it's just the idea, you haven't lived that life. You don't know what it's like to live that life. And I've always said about this kind of stuff is like, you know, I get it. You know, you're married, you should be faithful. I get it. That's the world we live in. Don't get married if you can't be faithful, right?
Sure.
But again, when you are on that level of popularity like some of these guys,
it's something we can't fathom.
You can't fathom it. And I'm not condoning. I'm just saying it's not as easy as it looks when you're out and you're popular and you're rich and people know you and you're famous, and all of a sudden because you're rich and famous, you're a lot better looking, right?
Of course.
And things are coming at you all the time. It's something, man.
We know plenty of athletes that we look at their relationship situation and we say, if he did not have that bank account, he would not have her. Oh,
I mean, not to be mean, Paul Skeens.
That's probably example number one.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes. Paul's got a good radio face.
Sure. Well, and have you ever heard Paul Skeens really talk?
No.
He's not really that interesting of a guy.
Really. Not really.
He has this like wow personality. He's
you know what he is?
He's a guy.
He takes a baseball and goes and stands on a mound.
He could legally kill you with a baseball if he wanted to because of how good he is.
Yeah. And again, I'm just saying that life on that level is insane. And honestly, Derek Jeter did it perfect. Don't get married.
Yes.
Don't get married, do your thing, run around with all your supermodels, all your whatever, and then once you've gone through that process and you've been there, done that enough and whatever, then you go, okay, I'm ready now. Let's go settle down and get married.
Sure.
And of course, you married a supermodel.
Yeah, of course. Well.
But I just think, or Clooney did that too. When you talk about, actors.
Yeah.
Clooney was single forever, and then finally it's like, okay, I'm ready.
All right.
I've done my thing. I've done my thing.
Got it all out of my system.
Exactly. And to me, that's the perfect way to go about it. Just look, I got it. You guys, look, I dig in stuff, and if I was a regular schmo, I'd marry you in a heartbeat, but you got to understand something. It ain't time.
Yeah.
Because this is craziness. But I just always have been like, I guess holier than thou people just always kill me.
Yeah.
You haven't lived that, man. You don't know what it's like. But circling back to Darren Waller, now a lonely man. Because, honestly, the flip side of that, if you do decide that you want to be unfaithful, then they can decide to, you know what, I really don't want to be with you anymore. And by the way, my lawyer will be talking with you about the settlement.
Yeah, and there's probably a good portion of that money that he's made up to this point in his career.
Maybe that's why he's
retiring. He does not have anymore.
Maybe that's why our boy is going out to play again. Because all of a sudden it's like, oops.
Like, dang, she cleaned me out.
Because, again, if I was a woman married to a celebrity or an athlete or something, and I found out that, wow, you got a groupie room in how many towns? Good. You'll be compensating me for that financially. Absolutely.
Have fun eating ramen noodles.
Yeah, hell hath no fury than Terry Ford scorned. Is the way I'd be like, okay, you want to do that? Good. Okay.
I'm assuming you're not signing the prenup.
No, I would not be. Unless the prenup's really good for me.
I guess so.
Then, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, all right. All right, we appreciate the text at 803-404-6100 on the Firehouse Sub text line. And again, starting on Monday, July 7th, we're just kind of shuffling some stuff around here. We're going to let Gunner start sleeping in because he's starting to look ragged. Watch the video
Is he
stream.
getting shorter?
Yeah, I think so.
Didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, I think he was shrinking. So that Bill can sleep in and get some rest and be awake, Gunner will be moving to this show with Tyler starting on Monday, the halftime show from 12 to 3. I'm going to go back and hang out with my buddy Jay Phillips again like we did for a couple years here on this show, but now we'll do it on the postgame show. And Elijah Campbell, because he can't wait to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I said this earlier. Elijah drinks enough caffeine to kill several horses on a daily basis, so 6 a.m. is no problem for him.
He's going to be fine. He will be fine with the getting up in the morning. He'll be cracking a 5-hour energy drink. Some more.
Have you seen the Mountain Dew that he's toting today?
It's ridiculous.
It's like a 3-liter.
It's stupid. It's like a keg. He's doing keg stands with a Mountain Dew. Shotgun and Mountain Dew in the other room. All right, 1 o'clock means we're going to be yapping a lot of football. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the halftime show with Dave and Tyler and Terry on the game. right, we are cooking the halftime show. 1 o'clock, we always yap a ton of football, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Obviously, P.J. Dean yesterday verbal to Georgia. It was South Carolina and Georgia. And, according to a lot of folks in the recruiting world, old P.J. was a waffling back and forth a lot.
Yeah, and again, we trust, obviously, Wes Chris and those guys over at Gamecock Central when it comes to reporting, and, they certainly trust Steve Wiltfong from On3 with the predictions, the Fong bombs that he throws out there, and all indications were, and I know you and Wes were doing the show yesterday, were pretty much up to the 11th hour that P.J. Dean had a good shot at, or Carolina had a good shot at Dean, and then he ended up going to Georgia. And again, the process isn't over. You still got 5 months until pen meets paper coming up on early signing day. But for now, he's locked in with Georgia, who, again, is on a heater right now. They've signed 15 in June, 10 in the last 9 days, multiple defensive linemen that P.J. Dean's part of.
And another one that they're talking about on Gamecock Central, Carter Meadows, an edge, ended up in Michigan.
Yep.
But the flip side is, and they put a lot of the wins here. It's been a good recruiting class so far. Whether you got the Harris brothers, you got Saquel Patterson recently, a KJ Johnson, and you fought off a lot of stuff like multiple schools were chasing some of the recruits that South Carolina has pulled, and you won some battles against the Auburns and the Ohio States and the Penn States and the Clemsons and the Michigans and the Georgias. Look, you want really good players, you got to fight really good programs for really good players.
Yeah, you want to take that next step. You have to win those battles against those kind of schools. And again, didn't happen in the instance yesterday with P.J. Dean, but clear examples of guys that those schools are after that. You were able to land. That's how you build a roster. And I've listened to a lot of national talking heads here recently, as we today officially enter the new era of revenue sharing, that they think there's going to be a higher importance put back on high school recruiting. And again, Georgia and Kirby, they've been doing really good at that since he got there. Obviously, Beamer puts heavy emphasis on it. So I'm interested to see the schools that have never slowed down when it came to recruiting high schools, and because some of these schools just kind of resigned to the portal, like, all right, we'll just go out there and get a bunch of portal guys next year, rebuild our team. But some schools have kept their nose to the grindstone when it comes to high school recruiting. Is that setting you up to have more success in this new era?
I look at it, one thing the portal has done, and we saw it in Indiana last year, the portal can help teams that aren't going to win recruiting battles with the big dogs.
If you need to flip your roster, you can.
I mean, Indiana's never going to go and beat Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State on players. I mean, they might get one every now and then, but they're not going to consistently go out there and fight with those behemoths and get 4- and 5-star kids. You're just not going to be able to. And what the portal has done, it has now enabled you to have another way to improve your football team and make yourself better. And, the rev share, look, is a quote-unquote salary cap. Sure it is. But I still think once this clearinghouse gets shot down and you can't set what's a market value and what's not on a player without a CBA,
sure,
that that will reopen up this collective that's being squeezed right now.
Well, and the thought is, again, kind of going back to why high school recruiting is going to become more important now, because now with NIL, you're having to pay guys straight out of high school that have never played a snap for you. Again, Bryce Underwood has a $12 million deal in Michigan, and he is we have as many snaps in college football as him. He has proven nothing, but he's signed into a multi-year, multi-million-dollar deal. Not saying that he couldn't get that eventually, but now I think, because again, and we don't know the specific number of figures, but let's say every football player is going to get $100,000 just for being a scholarship football player at a Power 4 institution. So, boom, there's some money. When you come to school, you can prove that you deserve more than that. That's where the NIL money will come in. But I think the fact that every high school player is going to get compensated something now in their first year coming in, I think alleviates some of the push to pay these guys that haven't proven themselves yet, which again goes back to why I think high school recruiting could possibly be making more of a surge going forward.
I think because there's kind of like there's still like college athletics wants uneven playing fields.
Of course.
That's just the way it is.
Because the people that have the money and have the resources to win don't want to go back down to the level of the guys that don't.
No, and that's why the rev share thing, when you look at these schools and everybody's looking for angles, everybody's looking for ways that we can, pay players to where we can give you more than this guy for this reason.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking for the angle right now. And the angle might go back at least temporarily to high school because now you have rev share and now you have to figure out the issues of your roster and what you're paying and what you're doing and how much you're giving to football and blah, 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 where the high school can be an easier road. Also, you know what stops the Bryce Underwood deals? Rookie salary cap.
Now, how could you enforce a rookie salary cap?
Yeah, you need to be collectively bargained.
How many mentions is that?
Well, I mean, really, you have a rookie salary cap in the NBA, in the NFL. Yeah. You have slotting in Major League Baseball in the draft of signing bonuses. I mean, the NHL has a slotting system. All these things are slotted because for a while there, remember the ridiculous contracts rookie quarterbacks were getting?
Sure.
Well, it's easy. You know, the NFL, the owners went to the NFLPA and said, you guys don't want to pay these unproven dudes. Because you pay them less, guess who gets more?
Exactly.
The veterans.
And again, you have to keep topping the prior deal. So if you end up drafting the next great quarterback and #1 overall, guess what? You're going to have to pay more than whatever the last great quarterback was.
How much money did Jamarcus Russell make for doing nothing?
Jamarcus Russell should be in jail for the amount of money that he stole.
Yeah, he committed a felony.
I think he went to jail for something else, but he should be in jail for that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was a massive bank robbery.
I didn't watch a second of film.
My man wore a ski mask to pick up his check and jumped in a getaway car. I mean, yeah, but that's the point of those rookie deals. And finally, everybody got together and said, look, we as players don't want to give unproven rookies all that dough. We want it for proven players.
Yep.
And the owners were like, we're with you. So one of the few times they all agreed. So again, circling back to this, there's nothing, I mean, again, once this collective thing gets shot down, which it will, now all of a sudden that stuff comes back into play again. Right now you got to get it all through the clearinghouse.
Sure, which that's its own thing of like, how's this going to work?
Yeah, and so the Bryce Underwood deal, well, glad you got that done because right now it's not going to happen moving forward.
Again, the Najee Kennedy with Texas Tech softball, they signed her new deal hours before the court ruling because they knew it was coming. Like, hey, if we want to make sure we got this, we got her squared away, let's go ahead and sign this.
Right, and there's a lot of stuff like that that's been going on the first, 6 months of the year.
Sure.
Because you know what's coming.
Yep.
And by the way,
grandfathered in.
Yep. And so today is the official death of amateurism in our country, by the way.
If it wasn't already dead, because again, 4 years ago, NIL went into effect, and it was kind of dead at that point.
We've lowered the casket officially.
It's really, we've lowered the casket, we've put the dirt on, we've had the reception.
Tombstones in place.
Yeah. It's you go back and visit occasionally and drop some flowers.
Yep, because it's the old days are officially gone starting today. That the rev share system, the clearinghouse system is all gone. And now, again, there's going to be court battles.
Oh,
because
ready?
We know the collective thing is going to get beat in court, but there and we've already seen some Title IX stuff that's going to go in court as well.
Sure.
The other part of this is, because it is a pseudo cap, it is without saying the C word. So those lawsuits are coming. You're capping my earning potential without what? Tyler?
Without an agreement that's collectively bargained between all parties involved.
What are you breaking?
Antitrust. Now, again, that is a cap from the standpoint of what the school can pay you. Again, the collective, if they can scrounge up the money, can pay you God knows how much more.
That's being capped too by a clearinghouse.
Technically, yes, because they're trying to make it. We're like, okay, again, and I brought this up earlier because, all right, we're day one now of rev share era. There's going to be something, maybe not even within the first season. Maybe like it'll be 26 or 27 when we start to really see it turn in a different direction. Because when NIL went live in 2021, within that first season, I remember not that it was being reported on as heavily as it is now, but you're like, hey, so-and-so got a brand deal with the local chicken place. Or like Arkansas's offensive line got a deal with a barbecue restaurant. Like, oh, that's cool. Those guys, by virtue of who they are in that community, get a deal with that company and get paid because of it. Yeah. Perfect. That's exactly what NIL was supposed to be. Then somebody looked around and said, hey, if we just pull a bunch of money together with a collective, we can start paying these guys to play for us, right? And then everybody's like, oh, hey, let's do that. And there was no way to wrangle that back in, and it devolved into what it became. So I don't know what that is for revenue share, but I imagine there's something on the horizon in the future that we can't even fathom at this point in time that in 5 years, like, man, that revenue sharing was going to be this, and it ended up being that.
Oh, yeah, because no one wants to. because there's never been rules.
No.
No, I mean, we can say the NCAA rules, but we know how that was paper mache that had no grip to it.
The NCAA rules were the equivalent of when the fans get ready to storm the field and they have to read that thing. Fans, remember, you're not allowed on the field. Yeah, okay, we know. We're going to storm the field anyway.
What are you going to do about it?
And your 5 security guards are going to try and stop tens of thousands of people. Yeah. That was the NCAA trying to enforce this.
They were Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Exactly. It's like, you don't have a real gun, right?
Right. You got any mace,
no, but
pepper spray?
I can call the police and they have them. Okay, well, good luck with that.
Yeah, go get them, Blart. And so it's always been, let's take advantage of everything we can take advantage of. And if we get caught, okay, we get caught.
Sure.
Whatever. So, yeah, there's going to be something. Someone is going to sit down. Someone smarter than you and I is going to sit down and come up with a way to manipulate the rev share program to get an advantage.
Yes.
It's just going to happen.
Yes.
And, people are sniffing around a lot of different things right now.
Bryce Underwood has 8,000 NIL deals worth $599.
Yes, that could be the one. You were only half kidding.
Yeah, like that. I think that's going to be the loophole here.
It could happen. Man, this guy's got a lot of deals. But someone is going to find a way to manipulate these rules because they always have.
Yeah, pretty much.
And the easiest part is there are going to be people going to court saying, look, we didn't collectively bargain any of this.
Yep.
We didn't have a say on any of this.
I don't know if we're operating on a 4-year clip. By 2029, are we ushering in a new era on top of a new era?
Could be. I mean, eventually, they're going to stop all this. You're going to have to sit down and talk with the players.
Again, this isn't the end all be all. This is not the it's everything's good now. Like, it's going to be more of a mess.
Sure,
maybe
a different mess.
Just different mess. Yeah,
it's
like we kind of put like the do not walk wet floor sign over here, and now there's another mess over here.
So we got to clean that up.
Yes,
but that's where it's going. But yeah, today, July 1st. Rev share and the clearinghouse and all that good stuff have now started in college athletics. And we'll see how many lawsuits there are, and we'll see how long this thing lasts until the courts shoot this down, too.
You know what's undefeated? Billable hours.
Absolutely. And by the way, the lawyers are tingly.
Oh, sure.
They're tingly.
They were reading through this stuff before the settlement came through, like, there, and there. Boom, there's my end.
Well, here's my thing. I'll circle back to the original problem here. There were lawyers with a straight face that told the NCAA, fight this in court. We'll take it all the way to the Supreme Court. We can't lose. You're all about amateurism. And they'll walk out the door going, you think they bought all that crap?
Yeah. By the way, you agree to pay me this amount no matter what happens.
Yeah, right. Oh, what's that paper you have in your hand? The next step in what we're doing about, doing the right thing for athletes? No, that's my billable hours. There you go, bub. But it starts officially today. All right, halftime show, talking a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Something close to your heart, because you love yourself some EA Sports College Football 26.
Oh, yes.
They put out, because everybody's got a list, they put out their list of the top quarterbacks in college football. Why don't we look over that next?
Let's do it.
It's a halftime show. A lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. David Dare, Tyler Head, Terry Ford on the halftime show till 3 on the game.
Welcome back in halftime show. Tyler Ed and Terry Ford along with you here on your Tuesday on the game, July 1st. That means we are less than 2 weeks away. Next week, CFB 26 coming out. I know you are so excited, Terry.
I'm stoked, bro.
You're
stoked.
You're gonna be gaming all night.
I will have carpal tunnel.
When was the last time you actually played a video game, by the way?
Let's see. Does Wii Bowling count?
Sure. What year was that?
My daughter was like 4 or 5. She's now 21.
Okay.
She was a monster at Wii Bowling.
That was like right when
tennis.
the Wii came out, like late 2000s.
Yeah, Wii Bowling, Wii Tennis. She was an animal. She bowled like she had like a 200 plus average at 4 years old on Wii Bowling.
Wii Sports was fun.
I liked Wii Sports. I dug that.
Yeah,
I dug Wii Sports.
And it was interactive. It was made kind of be for the whole family, but like a serious like game.
Oh, that stuff. My oldest, he played college football, the original, back in the day.
Yep.
The EA Sports, and he took the Fun and Gun Florida Gators. Mm-hmm. And he'd run the score up on everybody.
Sure.
Because he was really good.
Now, what mode did he play it on? Did he play on freshman or varsity?
I can't remember.
Or All-American?
Probably. Whatever the highest mode was.
Heisman, I guess.
He was on it.
Okay.
Because he was really good. He was a video game freak. He was Super Mario. He did all that stuff. And so I sat down and played him a few times in college football, and he beat me like 80-10.
Yeah.
And he's running this, we're throwing bombs up by like 40 or 50. And I thought to myself, I'm a parent. I've got to act like a parent. So I'm going to stop playing this game with him because I'm going to stop being a parent at some point, and I'm going to stuff him in a garbage can.
He
running the score up.
He Cardell Jonesed you.
Absolutely, he did.
Yeah, you were the kid in the hospital.
Yeah, I was. That kid was better than me, and again because I'm like, I'm trying. It's a game. You got to. It's a game, but also I'm also thinking you're kind of being a little bleep head here.
Yeah,
running the score up the way you are and throwing bombs up by like 60, and I was just like. And I would say something. I go, there's this thing called sportsmanship, kid. But again, he was really good, and I wasn't. Yeah.
When he's lining up to go for 2 when he's up by 60,
right.
I can ground you.
Oh, that's what I said to him. I go, you want to be in trouble? You want to ever play this game again? But that's the last time I played. He was, I don't know.
He beat you into retirement.
Yes. And I did a little bit of the James Bond 007 with my other son.
Okay, all right.
And of course. They both, as they became teenagers, did Grand Theft Auto.
Oh,
the original.
We're still waiting on 6, by the way.
The original Grand Theft Auto.
By the way, college football games went away, were gone for a decade, and have come back since the last installment of GTA. Been that long? 6 was supposed to come out this year, but I think it got pushed to next year.
I'll tell you, I'll never forget the original versions, the early versions of Grand Theft Auto, which are so politically incorrect today. It's like insane.
Sure.
The things that you could do to.
You can still do a lot. You can still do a lot.
So, yeah, that was the era when I play a little bit, but I was never big in it. I mean, I remember the early video games, like the early stuff.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Pong, and I was like, this is boring as hell. Why am I doing this?
Even back then?
Boop, boop, boop. I'm like, I got to go outside and do something fun. This is ridiculous. I can't do this. I did enjoy Frogger, watching the frog get run over.
Frogger's fun.
Kind of had fun with that. And, I would occasionally hit the Pac-Man thing at the arcade.
Sure.
Whatever. I mean, was it Elijah out here the other day? Elijah was killing it.
We had it out here the other day.
So, I mean, it's not like I've been anti-game my whole. I've just never been like hardcore.
Sure.
Hardcore in it.
It's different in different generations.
Yeah, my kids are deeply into them in different stages.
Yeah.
No doubt.
There was one version of Madden. I don't know if you guys ever did this or not, but you could go in and take players and change their thing. So I would take like super quarterbacks, great quarterbacks, make them a lineman. And then you draft them, for cheap, and then no one else would draft them. And then so you got a super team in the end. It's great.
Yeah. Look at Dave.
That was like the mid-2000s.
Working the system.
Those games. That was the heyday of Madden. Now they're just crap that they recycle every year.
I'll tell you. This was 25 years ago, I guess, with Madden. We were at this was my ex, and we were at like a Christmas party, Thanksgiving party, Thanksgiving dinner or whatever. And of course, you have football on Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, of course.
So they put on Madden because Madden is very realistic looking.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
really is. And so they were playing Madden. I was dabbling in a little Madden with them, having some fun. And then all of a sudden, like the older crew was coming in the room, and we're like, shh, pretend it's the real game. You guys play and pretend it's a real game. And the older people are watching the Madden game like it's the real thing.
The real game.
They thought it was a real game. And we're dying. And I've got my head turned. I'm trying not to laugh. And they're buying in. They're cheering. It was hilarious. They thought it was like a real game.
It's like, why am I seeing the plays on the screen? What's going on here?
And they were like, oh, that's just this modern technology. And
they bought it.
And a couple of them were actually believing it. When there was like 2 or 3 of them sat down there believing it. And we could only hold it for like 5 minutes. I was dying. I was just
great.
Because, I mean, really, Madden, if you're, like, not a football person,
sure,
you're not going to know that this is... I pulled that tape delay trick on my oldest kid. Because, the ESPN used to rerun games the next day.
Yeah, totally.
Like, if they had a college football game on Saturday, they would re-rack it and run it for a couple days.
Yeah.
And my oldest kid would go, oh, there's a game on. I said, yeah. He goes, and he didn't know it was a tape delay. And I bet him.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it took $10 from him. I gave it back. I just wanted to have some fun with him. I took his $10 and I gave it back to him.
No, hey, you should have kept it. That's a lesson.
A life lesson, like Dean Ford would have said. My dad, hey, did you learn something?
Boom. There you go.
All right, so
people when we'd run the games live, USC games, and we'd do it exactly live, so as it was happening. But there'd be like a 35-second delay on TV.
Yeah.
So people would put their headphones on, listen to the radio. And then go, hey, I think he's going to throw a pass.
Well, I bet you they throw deep here. How much you want to bet? You got 26 seconds. You want to bet me? All right, so the EA Sports College Football 26 rankings for quarterbacks. And, again, there's not a ton of shock in here. There's some names at the bottom of the list that are interesting out of the top 20. But if you look through... Cade Klubnik is number 1 at Clemson with a 92. Garrett Nussmeier, 92, so it's a tie. Drew Aller, 92. Sam Levitt, 91. Lenore Sellers, 91. There are a lot of people who think Sam Levitt's really going to pop this year at Arizona State.
Yeah, good year last year, obviously, and could potentially be the catalyst for them having another great season. Seemed to be a lot of smoke of him maybe transferring somewhere in the offseason that didn't end up happening, obviously. But yeah, very good season last year.
Remember, they don't have Skadabo this year.
They do not.
There'll be a lot more on Sam Levitt's plate. Yep. Lenore sitting at 5. John Mateer of Oklahoma. Also a 91 at 6. Carson Beck, I think, is a little overrated here. Miami at 91 as well. Then it's where it gets interesting. Blake Horvath at Navy.
He's a dude, man.
He is a dude. And typically Navy quarterbacks can't throw.
Sure.
Now, Horvath ran for over 1,200 yards and 17 touchdowns and 7 yards a carry. But for a Navy quarterback, 1,300 yards, over 1,300 yards passing with 13 touchdown throws, 4 picks. He completed 58% of his passes.
The most dynamic offense they've had in 100 years.
This might be the biggest dual threat of all dual threat quarterbacks in the modern era for Navy. Arch Manning is 9th at a 90.
He should be 100.
He's Arch Manning.
He's Arch Manning. Why is he only 90? Unacceptable.
I find that interesting. I think because they're doing cold, hard calculations without their heart involved, correct?
Yeah, if he has like 3 good games, he'll spike.
He goes up. Right?
He'll go way up.
Yep. There you go. So Manning and DJ Lagway is sitting at 10th, also at 90. Then that next level, Avery Johnson at Kansas State, who wasn't as good as everybody thought he was going to be last year. Because remember, they kicked Will Howard to the curb for Avery Johnson.
Yeah, he was the future.
And he was, you saw those moments where, I see why, but then there were some moments like, why in God's name did you do that? So Avery Johnson at 11. Kevin Jennings at SMU, another one with an 89. Kevin Jennings, great moments are great. Kevin Jennings, bad moments are horrific.
He just threw another pick, by the way.
Another pick.
To Penn State.
Another interesting name, Darian Mensah, who's coming from Tulane to Duke, who's making a lot of money, by the way, to do that in the portal at 89. Luke Altmaier at Illinois. Solid player. He was pretty good last year for Illinois. Not great, but pretty good.
If they hadn't played Carolina in the bowl game, most people here wouldn't know anything about Luke Altmaier, but a very solid quarterback.
Yeah, he started at Ole Miss, moved his way to Illinois in the portal. Again, a solid quarterback. Caden Salter, I believe, coming from Liberty and going to Colorado, if he can hold on to the gig. Remember, they got a fancy freshman there they really like.
Yep.
So Salter was a good quarterback on a lower level. Now he's going to move up to the power four. We'll see how he translates. How about Nico sitting at 16 at UCLA? Nico last year was everybody's darling, man.
Sure he was.
And now sitting at 16, tied with Diego Pavia at 88. Pavia's 17th. Rocco Becht is another underrated dude because he plays at Iowa State.
Yep.
How about Jake Retzloff? Won't be a BYU,
Yeah, he's
wherever
gonna have
Jake
to find a
ends
new
up.
home first.
And Sawyer Robertson at Baylor is 88, and he wraps it up. So there's your top 20. All right, Firehouse Up text the hour coming up soon, but let's hear some Lennar Sellers from the Manning passing camp. That's coming up next here on the Halftime Show on the Game. All right, so Lenore Sellers hanging out at the Manning passing camp. Tyler hooked a mic to Lenore Sellers to get some sound.
Yeah, I had to torture him to speak.
Answer questions. And Lenore's, let's get some of these cuts from the Manning passing camp real quick, Dave. We'll just run down the list here. He talks about how close, first of all, cut one, Dave, South Carolina was from being in the college football playoff.
It's only 3 or 4 plays. Just those small plays in the game, that 1-2 plays in the game matters a lot. So, I mean, that's what kept us out of playoffs. So
you think about, to Lenore's point, yeah, Ole Miss, you just got beat. Yeah, the fake punt probably wasn't a great choice in the Ole Miss game. But look, that day Ole Miss was just better than you for 4 quarters.
Even if you convert that, I don't think you're winning that game.
Wasn't your day.
No.
Because remember, Ole Miss is coming off a terrible loss to Kentucky.
Sure, Carolina's coming off a bye.
Right.
You felt like you had an advantage there.
Yeah, you felt like, but Ole Miss was like, okay, we just lost to a team we had no business losing to. We can't lose it. We can't lose 2 in a row. But the other games, to Lenore's point, Ole Miss aside, LSU, besides the questionable officiating, which they were terrible calls, let's just call it what it is. There were a couple plays in that game. And if you want to say those are the plays, okay, yeah, there are a couple plays that, if the officiating goes in the other direction where people think it should have, you win that football game. Or if Lenore Sellers doesn't get hurt.
I was going to say, if Lenore Sellers plays the second half of that game,
you probably win.
Then you probably win. If Herrera, even without Sellers, if Herrera makes the field goal and go to overtime,
who knows?
Then what happens?
Right. So there were a couple plays in the LSU game. And the Alabama game. Again, you had the Sellers fumble. You had all of that momentum. You had sucked the life out of Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Yeah. The week after they had lost a very embarrassing game.
So basically, you have control of the game.
Yes.
And you're going down to take even more control of the game. Remember, you got the ball back.
Yeah.
And then you had the fumble by Sellers. It changed everything. And then again, you had a kick that was missed by Herrera.
Yep.
And the weird Hail Mary thing at the end where you really needed just to get into field goal range, if I remember correctly.
I think, recalling.
Remember, because Lenore said, no, we got to go for it at the end. That's why he made that throw. And we were like, no, you could have made a throw like 20.
Yeah, because he had, was it Brown? He had somebody open on the flat.
Yeah, and he just said, threw that jump ball to Harbor.
Yeah.
And so, there were a couple plays in the Alabama game and a couple plays in the LSU game that they go your way. You are in the college football playoff because you're going to be a one-loss team.
Yep.
And you can even make the argument, even if you win one of the 2 that you did lose with LSU or Alabama, being a 2-loss team.
Oh, you're in. You're 10-2 in this league. You're in.
You're in.
There's zero doubt about that.
So, I mean, Lenore's is correct that they were a couple of plays away from being in the college football playoff. And so that's how, as much as we talk about a season's totality, there are times you can say, we were legitimately a few plays away from being in the postseason in the playoff situation.
Yep.
And again, a lot of other things lead to those plays. So we're not saying that other things weren't involved as well, but there were moments in games where if you make a play or two, it's a different ending. And really, if you look like at the other teams, Alabama, they couldn't say that about Oklahoma. Alabama got whooped by Oklahoma. They got taken apart. And Ole Miss, they should have never lost to Florida. Florida won that football game legit. Out of the 3, South Carolina is the one that can really do the what-if card more than the other 2.
Sure.
That, man, a couple of plays and you're in the playoff. And so to Lenore's point, yes, absolutely. All right, here's cut 2. Dave, we'll just go down the streak here. Here's Lenore Sellers talking about learning quarterbacking from the Mannings.
Yeah, just try to get as much from them as I can, just being a sponge. But when I see my name stuff like it's cool to see, but I still got to go out there and play, so that's all I'm really worried about.
I mean, why not pick the brains of guys who have done this pretty well?
Yeah.
So
kind of the best family for it, at least.
Oh yeah, between Archie and Peyton and Eli,
and it's a high, praise to be invited to this thing as college quarterback. Like it's not everybody that gets to go. Like you have to be in that upper level. So to just be invited is obviously says a lot about where you stand in the scheme of college football.
And when you're around that, just that family and that dynamic and what they know about playing the position, I mean, that's worth it alone.
Sure.
Just hanging around there, walking, like Lenore said, just being a sponge to what's going on around you. All right, cut 3, Dave. Lenoris Sellers talking about focusing on the small details of playing the position.
Just clean up the details, focusing on little details, like footwork, anticipation, stuff like that. Just knowing my system, code, making the guys around me better.
And we've heard that over and over again this offseason from Lenoris Sellers, offensive coordinator Mike Shula, Shane Beamer. Just Lenoris learning the little things of the position, the mechanical stuff, the footwork. You were out yesterday, and we were talking about that on the show. Is the footwork matters so much in quarterbacking, especially quarterbacking from the pocket. Just the footwork is so important.
Throw with your feet.
You throw with your feet. We'll always talk about whether you're pitching, you're playing quarterback, you throw with your lower body.
If you're pointing your feet that way and trying to throw that way, it's probably not going to go well.
Don't work well. So Lenoris is working on that footwork, which will make him more consistently accurate in the pocket. It just will. And, you know, the anticipation stuff, the throwing guys open, when you get to the next level of quarterbacking is you're throwing guys open and you're anticipating the cut and the route. And especially when you get to the NFL and the windows are really, 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 really little, you got to anticipate and you got to throw guys open and you got to throw the out route before the guy makes his cut out.
Yeah.
You know, you're throwing that crosser or that slant where you're leading them.
You're anticipating where they're going to be.
You can't wait until you got to be a beat or two ahead, and it's even more important in the NFL, but it's important in college as well. Being, anticipating what's on a route and, knowing when to let that football go.
And again, that goes back to why Mike Shula, or what the objective for Mike Shula in this offseason has been, is getting him to that next level. Now, again, we got to wait and see it on the field coming up here in 60 days or so, but that's been kind of the primary focus, as you heard Sellers kind of affirm right there.
All right, let's get cut 4 here, Dave. Lenoris Sellers at the Manning passing camp talking about his goals for the season.
Just if you make the playoffs and get past playoffs, national championship, that's the obvious goal. But just continuous growth, like chemistry-wise throughout the season, just winning every game, staying in every game, and so.
Because again, he went to the Spencer Rattler School of Quoting.
Yes, he taught him well.
Shorter, the better, right? And I love though when Lenoris will do this at times. He'll get to a stop point, and it's almost like he thought of something else and then went, yeah,
I don't need that. They got enough. There's enough substance here.
It's almost like he goes, yeah, okay. I'm shutting her down right now. I don't need to say anything else. And look, it's not a criticism, because I've always said, if you're dealing with the media and you're just, first of all, be you. And I just think he is a man of a few words, just in general.
Mm.
2 is stay in that lane of giving quote, but don't put yourself in the position to say something that you're going to, oh my God, I wish I wouldn't have said that.
Sure.
Less is more at times.
Yeah, he's never going to incriminate himself on anything.
No, and I always said, my other thought, though, 3, if you're very comfortable with the media and you like to talk with them, have fun with it. You know what I mean? That keeps you out of trouble, too. Just have fun with it. Don't take it down a road that you can't bring it back from.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So, but Lenoris was funny. That was like he was getting ready to say something and went, yeah, okay. Enough of that.
Yeah. Again, I don't think we ever go into a press conference for him or anything like, hey, gonna learn something here. Like, if he gives us a little something, we take it. If not, it's like, okay.
And he's right. The goal is to get in the college football playoff this year.
Which, by the way, I was going through this yesterday. I'm like, we really had the polar opposite between Sellers and Robbie Ashford last year.
Oh.
One never talked, one couldn't stop talking.
Robbie let it loose, man.
Robbie wrote a novel every time he was asked a question.
Robbie had a lot of frustration to get out of his system. All right, Dave, real quick, cut 5. Why the last 6 games in 2024 were better than the first 6?
Let me just shout out all the outside noise, just focused on us, really, not really focusing on the opponent, who he is playing, things like that, and just getting better and trying to improve ourselves.
And we hear this all the time now. If we play the best we can play, we should win the game.
Sounds
Focus
great.
on us. Don't focus on the opponent as much as focus on what we can control. All right, Firehouse Up, text the hour next, 803-404-6100, halftime show here on The Game. All righty, again, Monday, July 7th, I believe is the date. Going to juggle around the lineup here on the game, starting on Monday. Our buddy Elijah Campbell will jump in on the early game with Preston and Jen. Bill will come onto this show with Tyler, and I'm going to go hang out with Jay Phillips like we used to. That's what we're going to start doing. Dave's going nowhere. He'll be here at the same time. Wes and Chris will be at the same time. Tyler, 9 to noon, will be at the same time. Just going to shuffle 3 folks around here on the game, starting July 7th. And SEC Media Days is coming. July 13th, 17th in Atlanta. Shane Beamer is that Monday. Be all over that. That's coming up as well. And that feels like the official ramp up to the 2025 football season. So all that coming up here on the game. But again, Monday we'll be just tweaking the lineups a little bit here on the game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. Who knows? We might even have a new announcement about, I don't know, maybe being somewhere else. We know we're everywhere already. We might even be somewhere else before it's all said and done. Soon. Who knows, Dave? Who knows?
I'm the last to know.
You like it that way, though, don't you?
Yeah, I guess we have something to complain about and be paranoid about.
All right, we'll get our Firehouse Sub text the hour 803-404-6100. I think you're only happy when you're complaining, Dave.
Probably, I would think so.
Were you like this when you were younger, or just became a curmudgeon as you've gotten older?
Well, I needed attention all the time when I was younger.
Oh, see, that's different.
Give me attention. Give me attention.
How'd that work?
I didn't get it.
So that's why you are the way you are now?
It's part of it.
It's like we're going to do a little psychological breakdown of David Dare. All right. We'll get our text. Firehouse Up text the hour at 803-404-6100 here on the halftime show. Yeah, I forgot to hit that button. What do you got there, man?
Ryan says, I understand that everyone can do whatever they want with their lives, but I lose respect for athletes who don't watch the sport they currently play or are retired from. My question is, where would you be if people didn't watch you when you played?
It's always something. I've always said this about athletes. We had an email here a little while ago about how can you be really good at it if you don't love it. So let's hit both of these real quick. First, to the point of the texter, is I think we all look at, forget football players for a minute. When someone is doing something they're highly successful at, right, and they're making a lot of money doing it, and it's something that really in the big picture of life isn't that important. Like, look, I love sports, man.
Sure.
But, like, the head football coach in my town is not one of the 20 most important people in my world.
Yeah.
Right? The person who took care of my children and daycare is more important to me than a head coach.
Of course.
Just like singers and actors and all those people that make gobs of money entertaining us. I think there's a part of all this that go, you should be thanking the genetic gods that you've been given this gift that for some reason we pay you an incredibly insane amount of money to do.
Sure.
That in the picture of the world, you aren't as important as things that really do matter.
And for a lot of these athletes, maybe they didn't get into it because they liked it, but they get into it because their parent wanted them to. Because, listen, we all know the guy who lives vicariously through his child who's living out the sports dreams that he couldn't accomplish.
Painful to watch.
Yeah, like, hey, I started playing football when I was 4. Why? Because my dad told me to.
Yeah, my dad made me run up and down the backyard with a parachute tied to me when I was 7.
When you're doing those kind of things from a young age, it just becomes part of what you do. Like, you don't think about it like, I just play football. It's what I do. And again, you can progress and get good at it. And hey, now you're making millions of dollars.
And I think, and to the texter's point, I think that's the one thing with me at times is the lack of appreciation. You kind of hit the life lottery.
Sure.
And just appreciate the fact that, because I mean, look, obviously we're not making millions of dollars. I mean, if you're on the video stream, look at my shirt. But it's just the idea that I appreciate the fact that we just sit here and blab about sports every day and somebody actually pays us.
Of course.
That's fun, right?
Of course.
And I've always said this, a bad day of radio beats the hell out of tar in a roof.
Yes.
Or working construction. Or holding the stop-start sign, dodging cars on the interstate. I think sometimes you see this lack of appreciation. Like Ace Bailey almost comes off. Do you understand where you're at there, teenager?
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand how many millions of people would love to be in your position and look at how you're acting? No matter what your motivation is, you're coming off like this is your birthright. And that's, I think, when people get bothered, like to the text of, appreciate that you've been handed a gift here. And if you can't at least watch it on TV or pretend you're interested in some way, shape, or form, there are a lot of people who love to take your place, bud.
Sure.
And I think that's kind of how some people think at times with not just athletes, but anybody in the entertainment field who doesn't appreciate the fact that they're afforded a wonderful lifestyle that a lot of people will never have. And I think that bugs folks.
And there's some guys, when they retire, because of how much the game meant to them, it may hurt them, like emotionally, to continue watching it, knowing they're not a part of it. So they have to distance themselves from it.
And the email saying you can't be great if you don't love it, I'm not going to disagree with that, because I think that the highest level, there's some driving, motivating factor.
You can love the process and not the game itself.
And you can love the outcome and the grind it does to get to the outcome.
Sure.
But dude, you have to have some type of motivation to get to that high level. I will agree with that to the email, but there's something about it you love. It might not be, like you said, the actual game itself. It might just be achievement or something that's getting you where you got to get.
Sure.
All right, what's trending at 2 next on the game? All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry, Gamecock Traditions here on The Game. Appreciate you hanging out with us, whether it's on our YouTube channel at The Game Radio TV, or TV Radio, I should say, at The Game TV Radio, whether maybe you're hitting us on the app that you've downloaded. It could be Apple, Google, whatever. Appreciate that as well. Or you could be on your device, your laptop, your desktop, at 1075thegame.com. Whichever way you're going, we appreciate, of course, our YouTube channel sponsored by Shepherd's Glass and powered by our buds at Integrated Media. And at a daily basis, maintained by our engineer, Randy.
Yes.
Who has been phenomenal.
Yes, he has.
Phenomenal. All right. So it's a big day, July 1st, besides the fact that we have officially killed amateurism as we know it. We have buried it. We put the tombstone up. We've had the party, the wake, and everything else. Today is Bobby Bonilla Day. And we'll talk about it July 1st of 2026 and 27, and I believe till 35, right?
We have a July 1st headline for the next 10 years.
Yes. And it's the Bobby Bonilla Day, how it's grown into this thing is funny. And how we look at it's funny, right? Look, way back in the old days when this was done, was it year 2000, I think the Mets
year
did
2000.
This. You know, the Mets didn't want to scratch Bonilla a check for $6.5 million.
Because that was a lot of money
That
then.
was a lot of money
And they
in
had,
2000.
Money tied up in some other things.
And they were doing, and the people that own the Wilpon family who own the Mets, they were doing some other investments, and they had one with a very respected investor named Bernie Madoff.
Respected at the time.
At the time. No one knew what this scumbag was doing.
It's a great documentary out there.
Phenomenal, isn't it?
Wow.
If you ever
check that out.
got some time to kill, the Bernie Madoff. Whew. So the Mets were going down this investment route, and they were advised, instead of handing $6.5 million to Bobby Bonilla, do this thing called deferred payments. So the Mets decide to defer instead of giving $6.5 million, they do what roughly almost $1.2 million to Bobby Bonilla every year. Was starting in 2011.
Yep. So basically, you don't have to start paying him for a decade.
Right.
And he still had a couple years left in the majors, so he's still making money after
He went
that.
off and stole money from the Orioles, too.
Yeah. Which he still gets paid
the Orioles
for.
pay him $500,000 a year.
That's the lesser side of this story.
No one ever talks about the other side of it. The Orioles are going to be paying Chris Davis like Bobby Bonilla till the year 3000.
Yep.
So, but Bonilla, that kind of started National Bobby Bonilla Day. And Bonilla gets paid every year $1.2 million till 2035. And the Mets get beat up on this all the time.
Yep.
Because, again, the Mets, every now and then the Mets pop and have a good, besides that 86 Mets team and those mid-80s Mets teams to the early 90s, the Mets typically have a couple years that are good, then they'll go into crapper for a while, they'll pop back up again, go back into crapper, whatever. The Mets aren't looked at, obviously, as the Yankees, so the Bobby Bonilla deferred payment plan is one of the shining examples of Met dysfunction, right? That's kind of how we look at it. Nobody looks at the Dodgers, who have just deferred $580 million to Shohei Ohtani because the Dodgers are really the best organization in baseball. Yeah. We go like this. Wow, those guys are so smart. Their outside the box thinking is unbelievable.
Well, and it's the fact that we're still in the right now. When we get to those deferred payments to Ohtani whenever his career ends, then it'll be like, hey, maybe this isn't so great, the Dodgers. But when you look at the way the money works out, like, this is actually really good for the Mets. Like, it worked out kind of the way they needed it to. Because what is $1.2 million worth to the Mets right now? Nothing.
Oh,
they got one of the highest payrolls in baseball.
The bazillionaire that is Stephen Cohen, to your point, Stephen Cohen probably has a $1.2 million in change laying around his living room.
Yeah, you can find that in the couch.
Yeah. Good to go over his house, start shaking the couch. But so that's the thing. The deferred payment thing for the Mets made sense at the time because they were doing some financial stuff that was going to really benefit the franchise and the Wilpon family. And we beat it up now like they're a bunch of goobers. But now Shohei Ohtani's going to make $2 million a year for the next 10 years. And the rest of his salary, $580 out of $600 million, is deferred. Now, we're going to be doing National Shohei Ohtani Day down the road in 15, 20 years.
Maybe. Probably.
But we look at it now as a really smart move where you keep the Dodgers out of the luxury tax.
Yep.
And they can field a phenomenal team and not worry about paying them till down the road.
When the Mets go full Met and start falling apart. It's not because they're paying Bobby Bonilla $1.2 million every July 1st. It's because they're the Mets and they just do that.
And they do Met things. They met. And, you look at some of these other ones, and there's a bunch of them. Max Scherzer's going to get $105 million total from the Nationals. It'll be paid out through 2028. Brett Saberhagen, also at the Mets, got $250,000 a year for 25 years. Those payments began in 2004. And like I said, Chris Davis with the Orioles, he'll collect $59 million in deferred payments during a 15-year stretch that will continue through 2037. And all of it doesn't even come close to what Shohei Ohtani's going to get.
Sure.
But we beat up the Mets.
Yeah.
Because they're the Mets.
Well, and also, again, this started in 2011. I think with the rise of social media, this has kind of taken on a life of its own because it becomes a thing every single year, right? Like, again, like Twitter really started blowing up around the time that this started back in 2011. So I think the fact that it's become an annual thing right alongside that has made it even a bigger deal than it otherwise would have been if this was back in like the 90s, right?
And I think, too, the idea this time of year, because we finished up with the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup Finals. Football is in a kind of NFL and college are kind of in a dead period right now. Major League Baseball is getting to the halfway point of their season. They're still in the regular season of 162,000 games. We need something to be able to have a little fun with.
Yeah, well, we are in the dog days of summer.
And this works perfect.
And we can all look forward to talking about this every year on July 1st.
Right. And so thank you, Bobby Bonilla, and thank you, Mets.
Yes. By the way,
you did us a favor.
How nice would it be knowing every year on July 1st, when you count the Orioles' money too, basically $1.5 million hitting your bank account, and you're set for the next year.
And what do you do for a living? Walk to the mailbox?
Yeah. You don't have to do anything.
Check my direct deposit.
And look, I'm sure he probably saved money from
he made
his,
a lot of money as a player,
as well, because he was very successful. But like, even if he was truly living paycheck to paycheck on that $1.5 million every single year, that's still a pretty good life.
Think about doing nothing. And you're living on that. Let's say you look at taxes and everything, whatever. Let's say you're making, you get like $900,000 out of it.
Sure.
That's still a nice life.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's go conservative estimate here, and let's say he is getting $900,000 divided by 12. That means you have about $75,000 to spend per month. I think you can do okay doing that.
You're gonna be all right. I want to scroll down real quick. Went to Baseball Reference. Bobby Bonilla in his career, by the way, total popped $52 million.
I'm sure he still has some of that.
I think he's all right. And even if you take away what that $6.5 million left that he was going to get paid by the Mets, I'm just looking. This is just straight salary, and that Met deferment. As you look at it, that was in 2000, whatever the case. When you look at all this, Bobby Bonilla's had a pretty good life.
Yes, he has.
Financially.
Yes,
and it continues to happen for him every year when he gets his $1.7 million from the Orioles and the Mets. So good for Bobby Bonilla. He made $52 million. He never made more than $6.3 million in a season, and of course that was in 1994 from the Mets.
Yep.
Again, good player. I mean, Bobby Bonilla was a good player. And he put up some nice numbers in his career. Pirates, White Sox. Who else was in this? The Mets, the Orioles, the Marlins. Played till he was 38. Actually played with the Cardinals.
Yeah. Played a full career.
Yeah. Hit a cup of coffee with the Braves at age 37 in 2000. I mean, was a solid player. Had a career OPS of 830.
And I know he said that, the deferred payments kept him from potentially blowing a lot of that money at one time.
Let's get the thing. Darren Ravel, who does a lot of business stuff, started with ESPN. He's popped around with different folks. Cut 6 here, Dave. Here's Darren Ravel interviewing Bobby Bonilla. Cut 6.
Become a very popular day.
So what's your day like on July 1st?
My text messages blow up.
Bigger than your birthday.
Oh, way bigger than my birthday. It's way bigger. And it's a fun day, because it always brings a smile to my face that, I was happy I put the money away. I didn't say, you know what? I want this now. I don't care what you say. No. Go ahead, put it away. I don't care when you give it to me. Just as long as it comes. And that was really the mindset is,
as long as it comes.
as long as if something happened to me, my kids are good. So as long as that was fine, okay, so be it. Something that I was worried about.
Well, it's a smart move. Okay, you're already banking a ton of money in your career, right?
Sure.
And instead of giving you $6.5 million, they're roughly going to hand you what, 14 million, 15 million, whatever.
8% interest or something along those lines.
You're rolling. This pretty good deal.
Yeah.
It's not like you need it.
Sure. Yeah. He was not like broke at that point in time.
It's like, dude, I'm working at Spencer's.
Yeah.
Come on, help me out here.
Do you think at any point, because again, you're talking about 11 years between when this deal was done and when that first check came, think you forgot about it? They're like, oh yeah, like next week I start getting,
I can see it.
$1.2 million from the Mets every year for the next 25 years.
It's he'll see that he'll probably get he's living life or whatever, and then July 1st, and he's just all of a sudden he looks down, he gets 7 million text messages.
Yeah.
The direct deposit text comes to you from your bank.
Yeah, that's one of those things. The only thing he has to do is roll over at 5 a.m., check his bank app, make sure it's there, and then go back to sleep.
It's all good,
and he's set for the next year.
Bobby Bonilla Day. We'll talk about it again next July 1st. All right, halftime show. Dawn Staley, according to reports, did actually have conversations with the New York Knicks. That's really as far as it went. She's not a finalist for the gig, but she did have conversations. We'll talk about that coming back. What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. It's a halftime show. David Ayer, Tyler Head, Terry Ford on the game. All right, so one of the things trending at 2 is that Dawn Staley, we heard this rumor yesterday from New York Knicks fan YouTube channel, where you go to get all your news, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
That, there was a rumor that Dawn Staley had conversations, or the Knicks were interested in talking to Dawn Staley about their head coaching opening.
Yep.
And so word has come out. I mean, Jeremiah Donati, the AD, kind of was like, if I were them, I'd have talked to her too, basically.
Yeah, it's almost like it's high praise, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you were if you're in Donati's case, the coach that you're over is so well thought of that an NBA organization wants to come talk to her.
Right.
Like, again, that's great. And again, does it seem like she's very high up on their list of candidates who they're actually going to hire? Not necessarily. But the fact that she's even being talked to, because again, this isn't like the NFL where there's like a Rooney Rule. Right, you have to interview certain types of candidates to check a box so the league approves it, right? Like, no, you are free to ask and talk to as many or as few as you want to. So the fact they're willing to go out there, and again, this isn't the first NBA team to talk to her, again, speaks volumes to what she's doing and the respect she has in the greater basketball community as a whole.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the Knicks will probably hire Mike Brown, it feels like, who was...
It's their guy.
In Sacramento and got fired, was in Cleveland and got fired.
But that's their guy. That's who they wanted all along.
They've always wanted
They've
Mike
always
Brown.
wanted him.
We knew it.
But, sir, what about the other candidates you weren't allowed to talk to? No. We wanted Mike Brown.
We always had Mike Brown in our crosshairs. We just wanted to go through our process because it's always a good time to use
by process, the coaches that didn't want to coach for you.
So, look, again, we discussed the Knicks earlier in the show. There's good and bad to it. Obviously, the good is the roster. They got some players. They got to the conference finals. The negative is they still need to add some pieces to get over the top to actually get to the finals or win the whole thing. 3, you fired the coach that got you to the finals. 4, your owner's a boob. And if you're Dawn Staley, you're going to measure. If you would have got farther in the process,
sure,
you would have been like, okay, there's only 30 of these gigs, and I would be totally breaking through a barrier that no one ever thought could be broken through.
Right.
But they're the negatives, and I just said them. So it would have been interesting if this would have kept going. It really would have. But Dawn had a conversation with him, according to these things we're seeing now. And, again, I think Kevin Miller from Gamecock Central said, yes, they were, while the Knicks were impressed with Dawn, which is a no-brainer, they're finalists. I'm thinking it's going to be Mike Brown's job before it's all said and done. And at the end of the day, Mike Brown was their
guy. He's the one.
Yes, he was. Number one choice all along.
Does that get you further than Tom Thibodeau did?
Well, again, that's the thing. The reason you get rid of Tibbs, unless it's that little weird curly Q on the top of his head.
Yeah, he needs to just commit to it. Just go bald, man. Just shave it off. You're not fooling anyone with that painted-on hair.
No, it's just weird. So, Thibodeau, if you think Thibodeau wasn't your guy to get you to the NBA Finals and win you a championship, because Thibodeau's never been there, what do you think Mike Brown is? Not to be mean.
Yeah.
If it's Mike Brown or any of these other candidates they have right now, Taylor Jenkins, they got canned in Memphis.
We said, again, when they fired him a couple weeks ago, he took you farther than you had been in a quarter century.
Yeah.
And what makes you think somebody else can be going to be able to come in and do the same thing, if not better, with what he had?
Here's my thing. If you fire Thibodeau, my opinion, you hire Mark Malone. Or Mike Malone, I'm sorry. Mark Malone was a quarterback with the Steelers. You hire Mike Malone from Denver. Won an NBA championship. Has been successful. Has coached superstar player Nikola Jokic. A guy that has won. That's the dude you go get.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're going to go get some fancy hotshot, up-and-coming assistant that everybody thinks is going to be wow and great, and you took a flyer there. It's one of those two. You don't go hire a retread guy who has never made it either.
Yeah.
That just looks, again, could it work? Sure, anything's possible. But if your goal was to go above Tom Thibodeau, then hire a coach with a better resume than Tom Thibodeau. This is not hard. Or, again, you go in the college ranks and grab Bill Self. I don't think it's going to work, but at least you can go up and say, hey, this guy's won national championships in college. We're thinking this is the college coach that'll work in the NBA.
Yeah, and that's something that's like believable to your fans, right?
Right. I mean, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think a college coach is going to come to the NBA and be successful.
Sure.
But the point is, you can sell that to the fan base. How do you sell Mike Brown to your fan base? Like, again, not to be mean, how are you selling Brian Schottenheimer if you're a Cowboy fan?
You can't really.
I mean, not as good a coach as Mike McCarthy. Nobody thinks Brian Schottenheimer is going to be great. Now, could Brian Schottenheimer fool the world? Sure. Could he be much better than we thought? Absolutely. But just seeing what you're looking at, you're going, how does that make you better in the head coaching office? You had a guy in there that won a Super Bowl. So to the point, Thibodeau got you Mike Brown, he's never been coached to the NBA final, if my memory serves me. I'm going to double check, but I don't think Mike Brown has ever coached a team to the NBA finals. I mean, in Cleveland, he was in Cleveland with LeBron and those guys.
Oh, the 07 Cavs.
Now, did they make the finals with Brown?
Yeah, it says lost in the finals.
Okay, so Mike Brown did make it to the NBA finals with that Cleveland Cavalier team.
But let's see, the last time he coached a team even to the conference finals was 09.
Yeah, that was Cleveland.
And, well, let's see, missed playoffs. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't made the playoffs but once in his last 4 to 5 full years as a coach.
Yeah, I mean, if you and his career record, it is above 500, but it's not like this is, you go like this, this is the guy.
Yeah.
Because if you would have thought he was the guy, you would have hired him right away.
This almost kind of seems like the Jeff Fisher thing, right? Like Jeff Fisher rode almost winning a Super Bowl for decades.
Yeah.
Like, hey, remember, I got that team to the Super Bowl. Don't forget about that.
Yeah.
Like, this almost kind of seems like the same situation. Making one finals 20 years ago, being like, hey, wait a minute, I can still get that in me.
Right. And that was it. And look, watching that, 'cause that's why I was sitting here for a minute going, wait a minute, he did coach the Cavs. Was that the LeBron year they got themselves to the finals? And it was, to be fair to Mike Brown. He did make it once. That's how forgettable that
Now,
is.
again, how much of that was you and how much of that was one of the greatest players of all time?
Right. I mean, there are head coaches in the NBA who have had that run to the finals, right, or whatever, that you don't think, well, that was really the coach. No, the coach just kind of gravy trained his way. And how many coaches could have been on that ride?
We can take this across other sports. Do you think Ed Orgeron really is a national championship level head coach? No. He just had the collection of some of the best talent college football I'd ever seen for one season, and he just kept the train on the tracks.
Right. I mean, I'll sit here like, baseball has managers like that, whether it's, Bob Brenly in Arizona, when the Diamondbacks won the World Series, Joe Altobelli with the Orioles. I mean, there are managers that have, been in that spot. I mean, Ozzie Guillen with the White Sox. I mean, were they? You could make the argument: were they really good, or just everything magically happened in that one year, and they were fortunate enough to be sitting in the coach's office or the manager's office? So again, do I think Mike Brown is the guy that's going to take you farther than Tom Thibodeau? No, I don't. I really don't. And if he was your guy, you would have hired him right away.
Yeah.
And you would have jumped up and down and said he made it to the conference finals in 07 with LeBron.
Yeah, and that would have been, straight from the jump. But again, now we're going on almost a month, creeping up on a month.
Think about this for a minute. And again, I'm just doing this off the top of my head. Eric Spoelstra was the head coach when Miami won 2 titles when LeBron was in South Beach, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Made 4 NBA finals, I do believe. They were 2-2. They lost to Dallas, lost to San Antonio. Beat San Antonio, beat Oklahoma City. Besides Eric Spoelstra, think about all the times LeBron has been. I guess the only other coach you go was a coach you go, wow, that was a really good coach, was Ty Lue. That might be the only other guy where you go, man, LeBron had himself a pretty upper level dude who has gone on to coach and be successful with the Clippers.
Right.
Think about all the coaches LeBron James has had. And really 2 stick out saying, you know what, those guys are really good. And this is the credit of LeBron. I'm sitting here going to the credit of LeBron James.
Because again, when he's on a team, you have to debate it. Like, is it him or is it the coach?
So, again, going back to Mike Brown, I don't think that's the guy that's going to lift the Knicks to greatness. I could be wrong. You never know until I've always said this. You never truly know until sometimes all the karma in the world comes together and the fit works perfect, like Joe Torre with the Yankees, and all of a sudden you got yourself magic.
But again, if that was truly their best option, they felt like that hire would have been made weeks ago.
He'd been the first guy
because he was available.
You wouldn't have been asking permission to talk to Jason Kidd. You wouldn't have been asking permission to talk to the other coaches you went to want to talk to that you got turned down. And at the end of the day, you're settling on Mike Brown. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, you wouldn't have gotten to the point of talking to Don Staley.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because you would have been able to make that hire very quickly.
Mm-hmm. So at the end, when it's all said and done, this thing has just been a mess.
Yeah. So Knicks fans, I hope you enjoyed the run this year.
Good luck.
Maybe a long time till you get back.
All right, real quick, Dave. I want to fire this up real fast. Dusty Dvorak was on Sirius XM. He hosts a show on Sirius XM's College Channel. Talking about not needing preseason college football polls anymore. Cut 8, Dave. Fire that real quick.
I'm a little on the fence on this one. But I'm starting to get to a place that I hadn't been before. And I just think that, and especially as we expand even more, it almost tells me the less we need these things. The more the preseason polls, you know what they do? They convolute what we're even looking at to where we don't even know. Why? But I thought this team was good. But they beat, a preseason team that's 12. Well, they beat a 12-ranked team. Yeah, well, that team wanted to be 4-8. Should they have ever been 12? Was that a ranked win? Was it not a ranked win? I think that it throws a little bit of flies in the ointment to a certain degree. And here's the reality. You say, give me more data. Dude, we don't have any data. Zero. Because the real data I want is what this team is this year, and that's for all these different football programs.
I mean, to the point, yeah. I mean, this changes year to year so much now.
Yeah.
How can you put a preseason poll together?
I don't think you can because we don't have enough data.
I mean, Michigan last year was a top 10 team in the preseason poll.
Yeah.
You and I yelled about that was way too high.
Yeah,
Remember?
That was just the benefit of the doubt because you won the championship.
Yeah, exactly. Florida State was 10. No one saw that fall coming in that way. Utah had a rough time. They were 12. I mean, so yeah. If you got rid of preseason polls, it wouldn't bug me. But again, first poll, October 1st. That's your first poll.
Sounds great to me.
That way you got 4 weeks of data.
Yep.
All right, halftime show. Greatest day in the history of the world is next on the game. All right, we're going to go old school here, Tyler Head. Like always, we're really going old school. I don't think this is the oldest. I think you and Elijah had one older
We had
than
one
this.
from the 1700s. I figured that'd be hard to beat.
1540. No, I'm just making that up. 1859.
All right, pretty good.
Amherst defeats Williams 73-32 in the first intercollegiate baseball game. The game is played by Massachusetts rules. You know Massachusetts rules, right?
Remind me.
A wide-open form of sport commonly known as round ball. Amherst wins by reaching the pre-established score of 65 runs. They played the first one to 65.
Okay.
How'd you like to watch that in today's Major League Baseball? It took 17 days for now. Amherst exceeds the 65-run limit during you ready for this? 10-run, 26th inning.
Wow. Okay, so, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I guess they just never put like a stop, I guess the early days of baseball, or at least Massachusetts rule, you just set a number and
you
went
played
for
to
it.
it. Yeah, but there was no pitch clock.
I imagine scoring runs was probably easier back then because the pitching wasn't as good.
And the fielding, and the gloves weren't great if they used gloves.
Yeah, so, but okay, let's think about this. What if in the first inning, the team that batted first scored all 65 runs?
It's over.
You wouldn't give the other team
First
the
one
home
to 65,
team?
man. I don't know. They might I haven't played in Massachusetts in a while, so I don't know the Massachusetts rule on that.
Because in regular baseball, if the away team scores a run in the top of the 10th inning,
get your chance.
You still get another chance to at least tie or take the lead.
Massachusetts rule says first one to 65.
Okay. Sure. Well,
I can't believe you've never played any baseball in Massachusetts.
Imagine keeping the book for that game.
Oh, God. Imagine being there. 26th inning, Amherst finally broke the 65-run barrier.
You know, they have the 9-9 challenge, 9 beers, 9 hot dogs in 9 innings. 26 beers, 26 hot dogs, 26 innings. You might actually die.
There might be a lot of ugliness in that place. All right, a couple Wimbledon things from way back in the day. 1920, Suzanne Lenglen of France becomes the first female player, the first player, rather, male or female, to win 3 Wimbledon titles in 1 year, taking singles, doubles, and mixed. 1932, Helen Moody won her 5th women's singles title in 6 years at Wimbledon. This is interesting. 1947, the Basketball Association of America, which later became the NBA, holds its first inaugural college player draft. You may tell you the first guy picked?
Sure.
I can't believe you don't know this. Clifton McNeely from Texas Wesleyan, a forward, was picked by the Pittsburgh Ironmen.
I know all of these.
Yes. Our boy McNeely was 5'10". Played 3 seasons at Texas Wesleyan. And let me see, did he play? He was drafted. Nothing about it. He was picked first overall in 1947.
Do we consider that a bust?
He might be the first bust in the history of the NBA. A man of a million shots is what he was called. Led the nation in scoring. Don't see anything about actually playing.
So he had a hook shot.
Never played a game.
He had a hook shot. He had a layup. He could make a free throw because there's no 3-pointers back then.
Yeah. Nobody could nail the peach basket like our boy McNeely.
He could no look. He could just throw it up and then go in. I'm trying to think. How do you get to a million shots?
We found. I got something for you here.
All right.
The Pittsburgh Ironmen ultimately folded before the start of the 47-48 season.
So he never got a chance.
Already, McNeely is one of 2 players in the history of the NBA to never play professional basketball. You'll never get the other one.
Okay.
I didn't know this till just now. Gene Melchiorre of the 1951 draft. His nickname was Squeaky. He was a point guard drafted by the Baltimore Bullets, first overall pick. Ready? Banned for life for point shaving when he was a college player.
Wow. Okay. Screwed that one up.
We're learning stuff today, man. So there you go. There you go. So that was the first overall pick in the history of what will become the NBA.
You said that, was that Philadelphia?
Pittsburgh Ironmen.
Dang, because I was like, man, if if they were in Philly, maybe you get like a 76ers jersey with his name on the back of it. And people be like, who's that?
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
You should know.
Hey, even better, is there some kind of vintage Pittsburgh Ironman shirt somewhere?
You might be able to do that.
Just saying.
And you want to talk about starting conversations.
How cool
Give
would that
people
be?
a history lesson.
This day in 1982, Cal Ripken Jr. makes his first of his record 2,216 consecutive starts at shortstop for the Baltimore Orioles. 1990, the NBA locks out its players at 12:01, the first work stoppage in league history in 1995. Things have turned around okay.
Yeah, they're all right.
Yeah, they are. Bazillion-dollar league. 1997, Nevada Athletic Commission suspends Mike Tyson indefinitely, withholds $20 million in purse for biting Evander Holyfield's ear during their heavyweight fight, June 28th. So I'm working in Wisconsin when this happened. We had a big party to watch this fight.
Okay.
Because Holyfield was, supposed to really, this supposed to be actually interesting. I'll never forget it. You're watching this thing, and all of a sudden Holyfield is kind of like, acting a little weird, and you're like, well, what's up? And then all of a sudden you realize Mike Tyson bit his bleeping ear, and there's a piece of ear laying on the canvas, and you're like, well, what are we doing here?
But on like a scale of 1 to 10, your shock level that Mike Tyson did this, where was it at?
And it's Mike Tyson?
Like a 4, right?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Yeah, like, oh, wow, he bit his ear.
Right. Then you go like this. Oh, it's Mike Tyson.
Yeah. Well, if you could think of any athlete that would bite another one's ear off at that point in time, Mike Tyson probably be at the top of your list.
Yes. You're lucky he didn't bite any other body parts. I mean, Mike Tyson was kind of insane and out of control.
There's no telling
at that point
what substances he may have been on before that fight.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing, dude. So we're watching this, and our general manager of the radio station was from Chicago. And Chicago people are very blunt. They have a very blunt way of when the party's over. So, of course, the Holyfield thing happens, and the ear biting, and we're all sitting around, we're having fun, and we're knocking down some brews, and we're watching this thing, and we're eating food and all those stuff. And then it was about 11 o'clock or 11:30. He walks out with everybody's coats in his hand. He goes, hey, guys, this was a lot of fun. Hate to see you have to go. Time to leave.
Wow. So he goes,
this is how we do it in Chicago.
There was no beating around the bush.
No, so he goes, this is the Chicago way of saying the party's over.
See,
so basically, they just walk out with all the stuff, said, okay, beat it.
That is the complete opposite of how things are done in the South, where you start saying goodbye in the kitchen. You stay. You're there for like 10 minutes. You move to the front door, another 20 minutes. You're you're in your car. The host is standing by your window. It's another 20 minutes, and then eventually you leave. So it's been like an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, that's the way it happens in a lot of places in the country. I mean, I remember we used to play in the slow pitch softball league when I worked in Youngstown on Sundays. And after and it was typically you played like noon at the latest, right?
Yeah.
So you played your game, and those games are about an hour, and then. We, like 3 families where I lived, all had guys who played, so we take turns having everybody over. And we had this one guy, Tom, loved the guy to death. He had like 8 kids. Mm-hmm. Tom didn't want to go home.
Yeah.
So Tom always be the last guy. Tom's sitting in your living room like 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday. You're finally like, hey, Tom?
We're going to bed. Can you leave?
Yeah, we got to get up and like do stuff on Monday. His kids would come over. Hey, Dad, Mom's wondering when you're coming home. The opposite of the Chicago way.
Yeah. I think he needed some help.
Yeah, a lot. All right, it's the greatest day in the history of the world. Firehouse Sub Text the Hour, and the handoff sponsored by Little Pigs with our buddy Elijah Campbell from the postgame show is next here on The Game. All right, we got our Firehouse Subtext the hour here in a minute, 803-404-6100. Also, the handoff with our buddy Elijah Campbell for, a couple more days still in the postgame show.
For 2 more shows.
So you ready to rock and roll, man? Get up at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Oh, yeah. This is my first rodeo when it comes to doing morning radio.
Yeah. I did mornings for a long time, and I never want to do it again in my life. And I'll tell you this, not going to lie, forget brewing the coffee. I just eat the grounds.
At that point, just crush them up.
Yeah,
and
just
eat the coffee beans. Don't even grind them.
Yeah, just
eat
swallow them. Put them on a sandwich. Eat them in a sandwich.
Goes down easy.
All right, so Monday, you and Preston and Jen, and get the early game rolling, man. Now Gunner can sleep in.
That's right. Yeah, Gunner gets to sleep in. We're basically trading sleep schedules.
That's right.
At this point, that's the whole part of the trade.
Yep, Gunner will go noon to 3, schedule. And then and Jay and I will hang out again like we used to.
It's a reunion of sorts.
Yeah, I kind of miss making him nervous on a daily basis.
That's right. Fun. He's about to be significantly more nervous. And probably the scariest part for him is that you're the one in control, the dumb button.
Exactly, which is really going to scare him.
It's going to scare him more, actually.
All right, now, Dave, you weren't here. We were doing the greatest day in the history of the world, and the first what became the NBA draft was 1947, and the first pick was the Pittsburgh. Who was it again, Dave?
The Pittsburgh Ironmen.
The Pittsburgh Ironmen had the first pick in the draft. Now, that franchise folded before the season even started.
Not to be confused with the Pittsburgh Pisces.
A phenomenal team in the fish that ate Pittsburgh.
The fish that saved Pittsburgh, yeah.
They just saved Pittsburgh,
yeah,
right.
Ironmen were considered the worst professional basketball team in history. They went 15-45 in their lone season.
And ready for this?
Ooh.
And the other interesting part is the guy that was picked first in that inaugural draft never played. One of 2 first picks in NBA draft history that never, ever played. There was only 2. The other guy was in 1951. He couldn't play because he was banned for life for point shaving in college.
NYU?
Might have been the NYU crew.
It was the NYU points.
But nobody ever did any of this stuff before gambling was legal. Now everybody does it because gambling's legal. When it was illegal, no one would ever shave points.
No, absolutely not.
No.
The Boston College basketball team in the 70s never got in with the mob.
Never happened.
They've never heard of Henry Hill.
No.
They have no idea who that is.
Not at all. So Dave went digging. We said, can you find any merch, some Pittsburgh Ironman merch? Dave?
Yes, you can. It's royalretros.com. Please send us a check for this. But you can get it there in all kinds of white with yellow numbers and black outline, or black with yellow numbers and white outline. Of course, their colors are black and yellow. They're Pittsburgh.
Like every other sports team in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
By the way, that's a very smart thing that they've done that I'm surprised no other city's taken up. Like, let's just all have the same color.
It's another way to brand and merchandise your stuff.
Yeah.
Very simple, very easy. So how much is one of these vintage shirts, Dave?
$85.
I think we should get one and, hang it up in here.
We should have one.
Like a retired jersey.
You know what? We have these little, things. We should have things hanging in the rafters in here.
That's coming.
They do look like rafters,
We should have a Pittsburgh Ironman t-shirt.
And whenever Dave retires, we'll hang his 107.5 The Game shirt up there with it.
No. We don't. I don't think that's. Run the blue light over that thing before we start hanging it up anywhere.
Well, it'll be in a shadow box. It won't be free hanging.
Encase it.
Exactly.
We'll encase it.
Nothing. That way, nothing's transferable.
Exactly. What do you got on the old Firehouse subtext on 803-404-6100?
Going back to the Mike Brown, Tom Thibodeau conversation. Nameless text says, Devil's Advocate, everybody wondered why Yankees replaced Buck Showalter with a retread and Joe Torre, who hadn't won anything.
That's why I always say you never know till you know.
True.
I always use Joe Torre's example. It's a great text because it's true. Look, there's 2 things I always say. A, my opinion, I don't think Mike Brown's a guy to take you to an NBA championship. Nope. That's me. But also, I was the guy that said there's no way in hell you're going to win a World Series with Joe Torre, who's a mediocre manager his entire career. What happened? So we see this happen in sports. Look, when Bill Belichick got his second chance, we were like, really? You're hiring that guy in New England? Didn't you see that act in Cleveland? So you truly never know until you know. But I can give my opinion, which is my job, thinking I don't think you win an NBA championship with Mike Brown, but I always leave the door open because of Joe Torre or Bill Belichick. I do. And I'll go to another one, Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Who saw that coming to Southern Cal? How about nobody? Let's be fair.
Well, here's the thing, too. I guess there's one common denominator with all of those, potentially. Did the GM and owner make the decision to fire the coach with those guys in mind? Because the Knicks clearly had no plan.
That's what we said.
Well, but it's funny because if they did end up hiring Mike Brown at the introductory press conference, they're going to say, we got our guy. This was the one we wanted the entire time. Like, wait a minute. What about those 12 other coaches you weren't allowed to speak to? What happened with that?
Yeah, like those weren't your first options?
If you wanted to hire Mike Brown, the minute you fire Tom Thibodeau, where's your introductory presser?
Because it's not like he was tied up doing anything.
Nope.
He was sitting there waiting for a phone call.
Busy because he just got fired in Sacramento.
You could have fired Tom Thibodeau and then immediately picked up the phone and called him and had it done in 10 minutes.
So my point is about it, and I agree with the texter. We never, ever know.
It's a good point.
Because sometimes fit just works.
Yes.
Like for Joe Torre, you would put the lineup card out because you had a set lineup with Yankee teams, and you just took a nap until the 8th inning, and then you got up and said, get Rivera warming up, and then you finished the game and you went back and took a nap. What made Torre a great manager for those teams was he handled Steinbrenner. He kept Steinbrenner away from the players. He took the Steinbrenner phone calls. He sat it down and let Steinbrenner yap for 2 hours. He placated Steinbrenner. That's why Torre worked with the Yankees. To the credit of the Yankees for hiring a guy with a great temperament and personality to handle Steinbrenner.
And there is precedent for Mike Brown working. You know what that precedent is?
What?
Having LeBron James in his 20s.
Yeah.
Is a 20-something-year-old LeBron James going to be playing for the New York Knicks?
No.
Yeah, I've got my skepticism.
Yeah, but I'm with you. I don't think it'll work if it is Mike Brown. I don't. All right, what do you got coming up on the old postgame show, sir?
All right, Andy Bitter, long time beat writer, covering Virginia Tech for a long time, joining me at 3:30 to break down this first game and a SEC quarterback start bench drop.
Nice. A lot to do with the postgame show. Tyler, Dave, good work. We'll do this again tomorrow in the game. Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Look, we say it all the time. I understand you're a guy. We don't talk about things that go wrong with us. We're perfect. We're wonderful. We're great. Nothing's going sideways. We're men. We're macho. We're manly. But as we get older, it just, again, it's called getting up in years. Things just start changing. You get into your late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s, whatever, and all of a sudden, you're not doing the things you used to do, or you don't have that same zest for life or that same